Right, come on, you four-eyed fat-faced fool. Tell us what's going to be in the new podcast from the two mics.
Well, plenty of buffoonery from you and lots of sense from me. What else?
Bibbidi-bibbidi, doo-wop, razzmatazz, Scooby-Dooby, shoobity, bee-bop-bop-bop, Aluzia Shabazz. How about that?
Give him the job.
It is affordable housing, like provide.
Well, it's affordable if you're an Egyptian doctor.
No, it's affordable if you can afford it.
Good afternoon, I'm Mike Graham, he's Mike Parry, you're listening to the Two Mics on Talk Sport. Our week of stellar guests continues today as we're joined by England's super coach Eddie Jones, a man who's now won 14 games in a row with his squad. We'll ask why Roy Hodgson keeps bleating on about England's football players, why they kept ignoring him and why he failed miserably to do something that Eddie Jones seems to be able to do with ease. TV critic Kevin O'Sullivan will be here as well to tell us why the sketch show is officially dead. Also coming up, it's Porky Vision, the best TV review this side of the Rio Grande. You won't want to miss it. 08717 22 3344. You're listening to the Two Mics with me, Mike Graham, and Mike Parry on Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics, and I'm delighted to say it's time to say a very, very good afternoon to Mr. Mike, a Porky, a Parry. Very good afternoon to you, Mr. Parry.
And a very good afternoon to you, Mike. And some people may say you're a bit harsh to have opened the show with a critical barb at Roy Hodgson.
Really?
But I don't. I support you.
Yes, thank you.
Roy Hodgson is easily the worst England manager England have had post-war.
Do you think he's that bad?
Oh, easily that bad. And whatever the
worse than Fabio Capello.
Oh, much worse than Fabio Capello.
Worse than Sven-Göran Eriksson.
Sven was, by comparison, Sven was a blinking genius and very successful. At least he got us to the quarter-final of every competition he took us to.
Yeah.
But I don't know what Hodgson's problem is. Can he not accept now that actually, to try and portray himself as a sort of professorial, patriarchal gentleman of football isn't what we wanted.
No, it wasn't.
We wanted somebody to win football matches.
And also, if he's complaining, as he now is, that people weren't paying any attention to him and they were ignoring him, well, his job is to make them not ignore him. We're going to talk to Eddie Jones later on in this hour.
Yes.
Right? You can't imagine the England rugby players ignoring Eddie Jones, can you?
You certainly can't. You're absolutely right here, because what his latest moan, Roy Hodgson's latest moan, is this. He says that the players weren't listening to me. He says, one of the things I've learned was overestimating players' understanding of exactly what you want. So he's actually calling the England players too thick to understand his philosophy, which is a terrible thing to say.
Worse than that, he's admitting basically that he was assuming that they understood what he was saying without actually checking that they were.
Well, that's precisely.
I mean, any boss, and you've been a boss as I have, if you tell somebody...
I was a better boss than you, by the way.
No, you were not a better boss than me. And by the way, it's not a competition.
Yeah, go on.
What makes you think you were a better boss than me?
Just go on.
No, let's go. Let's examine your statement. Let's examine your statement.
No, we are talking...
What makes you think you're a better boss than I was?
We'll examine that later.
Sacked from the Daily Express, sent to New York because you became a Bellinin junkie.
Excuse me?
Yes, you did.
How dare you?
A Bellinin junkie, sacked from the job at the Express because of the nasty and horrible way that you treated your staff.
I'm not getting into this.
Well, you said you're a better boss than me.
Well, the audience, or millions out there, want to hear about Roy Hodgson.
Okay.
Now, he goes on to say, you have to make sure that they themselves, you're talking about the players, take ownership of the situation.
Yes.
In the last couple of years at England, we filmed the training sessions. Wow, how good is that, Roy?
Wow.
Well, let me tell you this, man, and I'm talking to Roy Hodgson now, the worst England boss we've had post-war. The players did take control of the situation. Just because Harry Kane took one good corner in training and you told him to take them during the matches was an idiotic instruction to your players. So thank God Wayne Rooney's revealed since that they actually started to ignore that when it was palpably the wrong thing to do.
Well, was it not Wayne Rooney who took matters into his own hands?
Yes, he
or
did,
at least he told us that after the fact.
Yes.
Basically, he said, well, clearly it's a stupid idea to have Harry Kane taking the corners. I'll take him.
Yeah, he says, we will work on situations in training, but then I want the player, when he sees fit, to say, I should have gone out there, I've gone too far. It's just ridiculous. The players gave up on you, pal, because a lot of what you were doing was pathetic. And I'm sorry to have to say this, at Liverpool, because funnily enough, we met some people from Associated Liverpool Football Club last night.
Yes.
I'm afraid you were a bit of a joke, Mr. Hodgson, honestly.
Yes, I mean, we've heard that from various places as well.
Yeah.
The trouble with Roy Hodgson as well, as he proved with his very petulant appearance at that final press conference after he resigned, when he didn't want to have a press conference, didn't feel that having taken £14 million of the FA's money, that he owed any sort of explanation to anyone, and felt that he could just slither off into the darkness and never be heard from again.
Aren't you so right? The day after, we went out, I don't know what I'm doing here.
Yeah, and it was really
you should
petulant.
know what you're doing now. What you're doing now is trying to explain why he'd made such a mess of it.
To be fair, he didn't know what he was doing there for the previous 3 years either. either. But I mean, the point is that here's a guy who was given an opportunity to make a great success of what was called a great young team. Completely failed in the World Cup in Brazil. Completely failed in the Euros as well in France.
Yes.
And then was so petulant about the fact that he had to walk away that he didn't feel like he could talk to anyone about it.
No.
He's a vain man, I think. I don't want to attack him personally, but he's clearly a very vain man. He's very self-important. He's very pompous and completely ill-suited to being in charge of young men running around a football pitch.
I totally agree. David Bernstein was the chairman of the FA at the time, and David Bernstein, ultra-patrician. That means establishment, la-di-da, would rather employ a member of the House of Lords than a man who was get your tracksuit on type coach. And everybody knows that Harry Redknapp should have been made the coach of England at that time, and he wasn't. Roy Hodgson was. Roy Hodgson didn't have a track record to support in any way the idea that he could be the England manager.
But while he was in charge, there were plenty of talking heads who were wheeled out from the FA and elsewhere to say, oh, well, of course, the reason Switzerland are doing so well in the World Cup is because Roy Hodgson set up their sort of football
25 years ago.
Team football, their structure 25 years ago.
That's a drivel.
What a load of old cobblers.
That's a drivel. I think Roy Hodgson should just go away now, spend his 14 million and keep his mouth shut, because every time he opens it, it reminds us of how poor he was.
Yes, Mark says this on Twitter. He says Hodgson was also the worst Liverpool manager in history as well.
Yeah. Without doubt. We were told that last night. We had some people who had a long association with the Liverpool Football Club who told about, the idea of him walking around on the training field with cones under his arm, not seeming to know where he was.
Yes. Roy wasn't great, says Biggish Mouth, but worse than Steve McLaren, who couldn't even get us to a tournament. He couldn't be worse than Steve McLaren, could he?
Yeah, in fairness, Steve McLaren had actually competitive teams in the qualifying games, and I was there that night when we went out 3-2.
Wasn't it?
Croatia, with run by Slaven Bilic, where Croatia were a proper team. But Roy Hodgson was only ever playing dummies, because that's the way that the competition got expanded in the era that Roy Hodgson was in charge.
Yes, exactly. Now, Matt says this, I can't wait until Koeman gets the boot and Hodgson gets the gig. I don't think he's ever going to get the job running Everton, is he?
It would never happen, but if it ever did, I would simply paint myself blue and throw myself off the pier head. Yeah,
exactly. Here's one from Flaky, who says, listening to a Roy Hodgson team talk must be like stumbling across an Open University programme from the 1970s.
Yes, it must be, actually. I would agree with that, and that's why they stopped taking any notice of what he was doing.
We're going to be talking to Nigel Adderley about this, because he was part of the camp, of course, during the Euros.
Well, he was there.
That's what I mean, part of the camp. That's what it means.
Yes.
You don't have to repeat it in a different form.
No. Part of the camp is an insinuation that he was actually on the coaching staff or something like that.
No, it doesn't insinuate
what you
that
should
at
have
all.
said was had access to the camp. That's what
he was part of the camp. Well, we can ask Nigel when he comes on, because, of course, famously you've berated him in the past for not being intelligent enough to go to the King's School Chester, because he had to go somewhere else. He didn't fail the exam.
I would never berate anybody for not being able to achieve the things they want to achieve in life and falling short.
Yeah, and also, can I ask you why you're still carrying around that huge bag of your drugs in it, in a plastic bag? Well, it's very unseemly.
No, it's because I couldn't get them home yesterday, so I had to leave them in the office overnight in a secure
Why couldn't you get them
cabinet.
Home? Why couldn't you get them home?
I had things to do.
Because you were out on the rads.
No, I wasn't out on the rads.
Despite the fact that only 1/3 of your heart works, you managed to hit not one, but 2 drinks occasions.
No,
Yes, you did. I was with you.
I was mixing, I was mingling, and I was paying attention to things, but I wasn't bladderating.
Really?
No.
So you weren't drinking?
Well, only in moderation.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Just so long as we sorted that one out.
Yes.
You've had your haircut as well, haven't you?
I have. First thing this morning. Guess what time?
Did you get the Italian to open especially for you?
Thank you. My coiffura came in at 7:15 this morning to do my hair.
What's
How about that? Hey?
What's his name?
John.
John?
Yes. What's your problem?
This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. Porky Vision coming up a little bit later on. There will be a podcast coming out. Now, I mean, I'm all for a bit of what you might call healthy, rigorous debate, right?
Yes.
But some guy called Dolce Boy has tweeted in, if I was Mike Parry, I'd punch Mike Graham in his face.
Right.
It's not very nice, is it?
Why?
Well, I don't know.
What are you supposed to have done to upset me?
He must have taken some exception to something I said to you.
Well, I think it's when I interjected and said I was a better boss than you, and then you decided you wanted to turn the whole debate then to try in defending your reputation and your track record as a boss.
I simply
didn't want to get on with the show. So you tell me, you'll keep telling me I'm self-centred. It's you who wants to make everything about yourself. Not
at all. Not at all.
Me.
I just simply want to pick you up on these comments that you make from time to time, which are completely and utterly erroneous. Tommy says, "Oh, John cuts my hair as well." I know John.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
There you go.
Yeah. I think that's...
So how much did John charge you for this haircut of yours?
I can't reveal that because he's a specialist, and I don't talk about those sort of things.
No.
Simple as that.
And there's one here from the Two Mikes FC who says Porky's got more drugs than Pablo Escobar in that bag.
No, I haven't. But if you want me to stay alive, then you've got to allow me the space to take them. You see what I mean?
I'm just surprised you're able to not take them and still go out on the lash.
No, it wasn't that. The thing is, the reason I picked them up, right, was because it's my 2 monthly consignment.
Uh-huh.
But we're not at the end of 2 months yet. It won't be until the 15th, so I've still got a few at home, which I can still take. So I'm not dying yet.
Okay, excellent. Well, that's very good news, because we've got a couple of things to do before Christmas.
We certainly
Let's talk to Nigel Adderley, who was, of course, Talk Sports England correspondent, in the camp, associated with the camp, near the camp, and indeed in very close contact with Roy Hodgson. Nigel, once again, welcome to the show.
Afternoon, gentlemen.
Yeah, hi, Nigel. Good to have you on, thank you.
Now, you'll have seen Roy Hodgson's comment saying that basically the players were ignoring him, and that was one of the reasons they had such a bad time. I mean, did you get any sense of what the relationship was between the players and the manager when you were with them?
Well, I think it was their relationship which deteriorated the longer they were in France, and that was indicated by the results. I think when they arrived, of course, it was a young squad. We were told it was the most exciting squad to ever leave these shores. Yeah. And I think the team spirit was very good at the start. And, of course, England made a decent start to the tournament. But the first real piece of momentum they had was that win over Wales, which was slightly fortunate, but they won. And then Hodgson chose to leave out half the team for the following game against Slovakia when there was still business to take care of. England didn't win that game. Didn't win the group, and I think from that moment on there was a schism between the management and the players, which was never repaired.
Nigel, remind me of the town we were all based in France. Chantilly. And what I found utterly remarkable was that on the eve of the tournament starting, Roy Hodgson, and you may have witnessed this personally, is walking round the square, isn't he, coming up to journalists and saying, hello, boys, how you and all that. And then within 2.5 weeks, of course, the relationship is so corrupted, in which he's accusing all you lot then of knifing him. I mean, I don't think he got anything right in his ability to get his message over.
No, you're right. I mean, myself, Adrian Durham, Goffey, and a couple of the production team were having some meal in the main square one night before the tournament, and Gary Neville, Roy Hodgson, Dan Ashworth, they all came over and said hello, and we had a bit of a chat and a bit of banter, which was great. But these things, as you know, Porky, it's all dependent on results.
Of course,
the only way Roy Hodgson could really win was to win, and he didn't. Yeah. And I think that it's a fairly cheap shot to look at the media and look at maybe what the players were taking in, because as the coach, it's your job to coach them and make them understand. And patently, he didn't do that.
And as Mike said on my left here, he said the job is to try and get them to do what you want them to do, but then if they're not doing what you want them to do, you've got to correct it and make them do what you want them to do. But when Harry Kane was told to take corners and Wayne Rooney decided to step in, that was the start of the end, wasn't it?
It was. I was sat down on the touchline during the game in Iceland. I had a very good view of the England technical area, particularly in the second half when things were starting to unravel. And there was very little, if anything, coming from Roy Hodgson, Gary Neville, from the technical area towards the team, who were clearly struggling and were playing like a team of rabbit in headlights. And that was really epitomised by the discussion over when Marcus Rashford should come on. Yeah. And I think he came on maybe 10 minutes later than he should have done. Yeah. And that possible impact was lost. So I think that things are broken down the longer the tournament went on. And I think the Iceland game was just really epitomised all that went wrong.
I mean, was there a particular moment where you could say this is where relations have completely sort of fallen apart, in as much as, well, as we've said, Wayne Rooney supposedly took over the instructions to the team. Hodgson presumably got to the point where he realised nobody was paying any attention to him. And we've got a tweet here from somebody called Keith who says, if you think it was Roy's idea to put Kane on free kicks and corners, you are misguided. His hands were tied, not his decision. Well, whose decision was it?
Well, the buck stops with him, so you would imagine it's his decision, and it was his decision. Yeah, it was a topic of conversation throughout press conferences and on and off the mic as well throughout the tournament. And he believed that Harry Kane had a very good set-piece delivery, but sadly that talent had left by the time England had got to the European Championships. Yeah. But I think. At the start, Roy Hodgson, I think, fundamentally is a decent guy, and I sound like I'm damning him with faint praise by saying that, but when you speak to him one-to-one, he's a good man to deal with and clearly has an immense football knowledge gained in many countries over many years. But with hindsight, was he the right man to motivate and get the best out of a group of young players? You look in the Premier League at the moment, Conte, Guardiola, Klopp, they are younger men who I think have got more of a connection with their players, and as a result, they're getting better results.
No, but you know, within the camp, as you were there, I mean, obviously there's always a post-mortem and people tend to say things outside of the tournament they don't say during it. But, I mean, you know, these are some very, very massive fault lines within the England camp. And you would think that people would have talked about them perhaps a little bit more readily during rather than just after the fact.
Well, I think that when you talk to the players and coaches during tournaments, they're very much on message. They're all very well media trained, and clearly there was a united front that was being put up. But you just got the sense that after the Slovakia game, when, of course, he changed all the players and they didn't get the result they needed to win the group, that there was a sense that things weren't right. And we were invited to an open training session following that game, and we all stood there on a beautiful sunny morning watching the team go through certain drills. And Hodgson was very critical of the team publicly during that training session. He said the quality's not good enough, things aren't right. And, OK, you could say maybe some of the players needed a kick up the backside. But it was he was tetchy. And clearly he was under pressure, because every England manager is under pressure at a tournament. But the fact is, if they'd won the group, taken care of business, look, they may not have beaten Northern Ireland, but they could have done. And then they'd have had Belgium in the quarterfinals, and he would have probably done enough to keep his job. So I'm sure that the comments we've seen over the past couple of days are tinged with some regret at the errors he's made as well.
Yeah, probably reflect
I would think Mr. Hodgson might be probably best keeping his mouth shut at this point. No, but Nigel, thank you very much indeed. Nigel Adderley, you're on tonight, of course, commentating on the Champions League. Right now we've got Porto against Leicester on TalkSport tonight in the Champions League, and Spurs are playing as well, of course.
Yeah, did you notice, by the way, Sammy Lee's gone as well? From
yes, he has.
Coach up,
he went yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah, went yesterday, yeah. So, you know, the Southgate revolution is underway.
Yeah, I can't wait. This is TalkSport. This is TalkSport. We are the two Mikes. Eddie Jones is going to join us very, very shortly. He's had a remarkable record, 14 wins in a row, equaling Clive Woodward's record, Sir Clive Woodward's record, and England going big guns. But he's not yet happy because he's not sure that England are the best team in the world yet. No. How about this from Kenny, who's tweeted at the two Mikes? Who cares about Roy Hodgson? I care about who was the best boss, Plank or old MG. Please get back into it. Yeah, well, we might talk about that a bit later on. What I want to talk about at the moment, before Eddie comes on, is the disturbing sight of HMS Illustrious being towed out, not towed out, actually, under its own steam, from Portsmouth Harbour this morning on its way to be scrapped in Turkey. It's another disgrace well, we'll do that
in our military build-up.
All right, well, we'll do that later. We've got far important fish to fry right now, because Eddie Jones, the coach of England Rugby, is here with us. Eddie, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you.
How are you guys? All right?
Very well, thank you.
Very well indeed. Now, as we look down through the record of England at the moment, 14 consecutive Test victories, fantastic record, which is equalled Sir Clive Woodward's. You say it's not enough, though. You want more, right?
Oh, we want to be the number one team in the world, you know. We've got the potential to do it, and when we do that, then we can be satisfied.
Yeah, Eddie, I wanted to ask you one particular player I have in mind, Chris Robshaw. When you're the captain and you are literally at the front of the queue, first man to walk out on the pitch, you open the dressing room door, you go out, and then a new boss comes along, that's yourself, and you're no longer at the front of the queue. It's always a danger, isn't it? They're going to break the morale and the spirit of a guy like that.
Yes and no, but you know, there's no reason why he can't still be in the team and still be a leader and still be a very valuable member, and that's what Chris has been, you know. He handled it extremely well. He's a good style of a bloke and very well liked by the players. So the players wanted him in the team, he wanted to be in the team, and he's fulfilled a great role for us. Yeah,
OK. So you think he's better off without the responsibility of captaincy on his shoulders then?
Well, some guys are, you know. When you meet a player, you know pretty much straight away whether they want to be at the front of the queue or in the middle of the queue.
Right.
Yeah, and both positions are equally important. And I felt meeting Chris, he was a guy that worked best behind the scenes, and that's what he's done. You know, his influence on the team has been absolutely enormous.
And Eddie, when you talk about that there's more to do and you want to be the best team in the world, obviously looking at the All Blacks as the best team in the world, how do you become as good as the All Blacks, and with what sort of time frame are you thinking?
Well, we only need to get there by the 2nd November 2019, which is the World Cup final. So that's our target. You know, to be the best team in the world, you've got to be able to neutralise the opposition's strengths and then be able to maximise your strengths. So that's what we're in the process of doing at the moment. You know, the All Blacks are good at certain things, we're good at certain things, and we're going to try to cut out those All Black strengths and work on our strengths. So every time we play a game from now on, we're looking at building a game of beating the All Blacks.
Like when you played Australia at the weekend, it was said to be, and I guess you would have said this yourself, not one of the greatest England performances, but they showed a lot more kind of grit and determination perhaps than they have in the past to get back on top.
Yeah, no, showed plenty of ticker, mate. Considering we were missing at least seven frontline players against the full-strength Australian side that, 12 months ago was the World Cup finalist. It was a pretty fair performance. Not in terms of it wasn't a classic performance, but generally speaking, in big games, you very rarely get classic performances, do you?
Well, sometimes I suppose the tension is too much for some people. Eddie, how do you transfer your instinctive national pride and loyalty from where you were born, where you come from, and Antipodean to England? Because, look, I'm delighted that you're doing a brilliant job for us. Thank you very much indeed.
Because you've always said in football you don't want a foreign coach.
I don't. I'm a very big fan of the England football team, Eddie, and I always prefer to have an Englishman in charge because I think when you employ an Italian coach who can't really speak very good English, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I can't speak very good English. I'm not batting too well.
We noticed that. No, but seriously.
No, seriously. Well, I still love my country. I don't try to go away from that, but I'm an absolutely driven professional coach, and I've been lucky enough to be given the job to make England rugby strong again. And I'm giving it absolutely everything I've got, and the players know that. So when the players know that, generally speaking, the players want to get every player in the world that's worth coaching wants to get better. So if you, it doesn't matter whether you're Australian or Chinese or Mongolian. If that coach comes in and he makes that player better, then the player's going to work for him, and that's what's happened, I think. And the nationalistic part I think is important, and we've got 3 assistant coaches that are all English. So any of that shortfall in that area, the assistant coaches pick up, which I think is important. I think you're right.
So you have that built into the system. But I was going to ask you, because of the fact that rugby does seem to be able to do this much easier than football. Football fans and rugby fans maybe have a different view. But looking around the home nations, for example, after you being in charge of England, we've got Joe Schmidt in charge of Ireland, Vern Cotter, Scotland, Warren Gatland, Wales. I mean, is there a dearth of good, decent head coaches in rugby from the British Isles?
Well, I think they're comfortable here. I think the club coaches here are comfortable because, they make a pretty good living. It's not the cutthroat environment of the football, is it? They're talking about Ranieri now being sacked, aren't they? I heard you had people ringing him yesterday saying they should sack him. It's unbelievable, isn't it? He's won the championship last year. He's got him top of the group in the Champions League, and now people want to sack him. Whereas in rugby, there's not that desperation to change coaches. So I think the English club coaches are a little bit too comfortable and probably need to get out of their comfort zone.
That's a very interesting observation, that, because you would think that they'd be self-motivating, wouldn't you, in a game like rugby, particularly as we have such strong support in this country. Twickenham must be an amazing place to be when you're, when your team's going forward and you're leading one of the world's great teams by 10 or 12 points. Do you feel in coming here, Eddie, and with the other coaches that my colleague Mike has outlined to you, that England can revolutionise themselves now and start producing those guys?
100%. There's no doubt about that. It's like you guys on radio. If you didn't have ratings, you'd probably be a bit more comfortable. You might come in 1 minute late one day. You might have a few extra beers the night before, not be at your best. But because you have ratings, you have to be at your best, don't you?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Otherwise, you don't survive. And what I'm saying in rugby is that there's not that massive survival instinct in coaches in Europe.
Right.
Whereas you look at football on the other hand, where do all the best coaches come from? They come from tiny little countries where you have to be that good to get through. Otherwise you don't survive. Look at Portugal, Spain, the sort of coaches they produce. It's amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely
it is,
right.
yeah.
Now, coming next year, we've got the Lions tour. The three assistant coaches were named today. Steve Borthwick from England, Rob Howley and Andy Farrell, of course, are going to go as well. Is that something that is, for you, a disruptive sort of influence on your preparation for the World Cup and for where you want to get to? Or how can you help, for example, the Lions to take on New Zealand and win?
Well, we can help the Lions win by producing good players, and we're hopeful of having 10 to 15 players in that Lions squad, and we want them to be players that are capable of beating New Zealand. So we can help the Lions by producing good players, and the Lions can help us by beating New Zealand, and then the players have the confidence of beating New Zealand, because once you've played against New Zealand, you've beaten them. A lot of that mystique and aura goes away from it, and that's an important thing in sport. So we'll play our part like that, and we need to have a really good Six Nations to do that.
Sure. And finally, just one last sort of a sort of tip to football as well. Roy Hodgson's come out today. We've been talking about it on the show about how during the Euros the players ignored him, didn't listen to what he was saying, and didn't do what he wanted. What would you do if some players in your squad did that, Eddie?
Well, I think once they get on the field, you've got to give them the responsibility of making decisions. They can't be told what to do on the field, and if they're not good enough to make those decisions, they shouldn't be out there in the first place. So we really encourage our players to make decisions on the field, because we're not like basketball. You can't go on the field and can't go on the court and have a timeout and give instructions on the game. You got to work it out for yourself. And maybe in football, maybe what the New England manager should do is not stand on the sideline. Sit up in the grandstand, make them work it out for themselves. Looks at him during the game, take him off the field.
Yeah, it's a theory that we've got to explore in this country. I totally agree with you. I don't know if you always get a good perspective of the game from standing on the touchline. Anyway,
great stuff,
Eddie.
Eddie, thank you very much indeed. Best of luck with it all. Of course, Eddie Jones there, 14 wins in a row on the trot. Great record for England rugby, and I'm sure it's going to continue to go from strength to strength.
Oh, without doubt. This man's he's become an English hero already.
Yeah. So, how is it that you can accept a foreign coach in the rugby mode but not in football?
Well, because I'm not emotionally tied to rugby as I am to football, and I do understand that with rugby being a game which has such a huge presence in the Southern Hemisphere, you're going to have to draw on the talent in the Southern Hemisphere to try and improve things in the Northern Hemisphere. Okay. Whereas I've always believed that because we should be so strong as a group of European countries, Germany and Spain.
Well,
and
no,
England,
you're talking about just Britain,
France.
though.
No, Britain.
Or in fact, just England.
England's included in that we shouldn't need to go anywhere else for our coaches.
But you don't want anyone to go to Europe for a coach, though. You want to get only coaches in England. So it's nothing to do with the Northern Southern Hemisphere.
No, I didn't say. I said that rugby is Northern Southern Hemisphere. What I'm saying is I still don't think it's absolutely necessary to bring in coaches from South America, which incidentally is in the Southern Hemisphere, just by coincidence, to come and ply their trade in Europe.
I see. Yeah. I don't know what you're saying now.
Well, you weren't paying attention in that case, were you?
This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Porky Vision coming up in the next couple of hours on the show. Of course, we're going to be also talking to Kevin O'Sullivan about the death of sitcoms.
Yes.
Sketch shows rather than
sketch
sitcoms.
Shows, absolutely. I mean, funny people doing little sketches like the two Ronnies and not being given the credit for it. That's what gets my goat.
Does it? Gets your goat, does it? We'll be talking about it. Now, what did you want to talk to me about just before we spoke to Eddie Jones? Well, it's very interesting, by the way, about what he was talking about in terms of man management and in terms of giving more responsibility rather than less to the actual players.
You're absolutely right. And I asked him a critical question at the end, actually, which he was going to develop, but unfortunately we ran out of time. And as I said, I'm not sure that watching a game from the sidelines, like football coaches do, is the right perspective to watch the game.
No, that was what he said.
He said, yeah, quite right.
No, actually, he said it first.
No.
He said, I'm not. No, he said it first.
That's the right place,
he said it first. I thought that you. He said it first that he thought it wasn't perhaps the best place for managers to be on the touchline. Why are you so obsessed with getting any guest to say that something you said was a good idea?
Yeah, well, Rob, sure, you like being in the middle, not at the
Haven't we got some kind of a clip of you telling us about your sort of incredible knowledge of all the coaches that exist in rugby union?
No.
Are you sure?
No, I'm absolutely certain.
All right.
Now,
here's Robbie. He says, great questions, MG.
Yeah. Yeah, did he?
Yeah.
What did he say that for?
Because I asked great questions.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, sorry, I got one here which you seem to have removed, which said that so many famous people have come on the show in the last sort of week. You know, Jenny Seagrove, Joe Cole, Rod Stewart.
No, Jenny Seagrove did not come on this show.
You know,
Jenny
friends of mine.
No, Jenny Seagrove came.
Friends of mine.
Jenny Seagrove came on the warm-up.
Well, that's a show we were doing.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It's not this show.
Yeah, and now Eddie Jones, I managed to get him on. So
no, you didn't manage to get Eddie Jones on.
Well, who did then?
Why do you tell so many lies?
What do you mean? He came on
what
the
did
show.
you do to get Eddie Jones to come on? Talk us through the process.
I pulled one or two strings, and I'm not going into it.
Really?
I want to talk to you about.
Why don't you have a listen to this about how many strings you can pull in a rugby game?
Oh yeah.
There's one saying that the RFU want to try and get hold of the Irish manager.
Yes.
Not quite sure why they want him.
Is that
the coach?
The New Zealand guy?
I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I remember his name.
Can you? What is it?
His name is Ian.
Ian? Ian, go on.
Hang on, what is his name? Ian. He's very good.
Meanwhile,
McClacken.
You're thinking of Ian McGeechan?
No, McGeechan. It's not McGeechan. It's the other guy. You know.
What other guy?
Well, the guy who runs Wales. What's his name?
No, Ireland.
Ireland. He runs Ireland.
You're thinking of Warren Gatland, aren't
Warren
you?
Gatland.
Yeah, no, he runs Wales.
No, but they do want Warren Gatland.
Yeah, but
they
he
do
doesn't,
want Warren
but
Gatland.
he doesn't run Ireland.
He runs Wales, and they want him.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
It's confusing, isn't it?
No, I was really assessing the opportunities there for each of the home nations. But anyway, look, HMS Illustrious.
What worries me is that why you seek to gain credit for things for which you have no right to ask for credit.
I'm not seeking to gain credit for anything.
You just said that you arranged for Eddie Jones to come on the show.
No. I just said that somebody sent in a text which you seem to have removed because obviously
I haven't removed anything.
It obviously, you know.
What, do you think it might have just moved away from the screen because it moves up and down?
A raw nerve for you.
Did you know the screen? Did you know the screen moved up and down?
Well, I'm watching it, so I am aware.
Yeah,
of the
but
fact
you know
it
it's a
moves up
touch
and
screen
down.
as well.
Yeah, I know it's a touch screen.
So you can move it back up if you want.
Yeah, okay, you will. I know exactly what I'm doing. Don't worry about
Don't
it.
touch that button.
Yeah, don't touch that button. No, now HMS Illustrious, right?
Yeah.
It's going to have a port
Who
of harbour this
knew
morning.
you could recycle a ship?
Well, that's what they call it now. They don't
2
call it
million
scrapping
quid.
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said 2.1 million for the British government. I mean, you know,
You have to leave it out by the green sort of bin or something.
it's just ludicrous. And the point is, that's now left us, of course, with no.
Got a ship here.
Yeah, I've got a ship here. Yeah, where'd you put it?
There's cardboard, some bottles.
It's left us without any aircraft carrier cover now for a couple of years, and quite frankly, once again, I blame David Cameron, the most inept Prime Minister we've had for a long, long time.
He's not Prime Minister anymore.
No, but he was the Prime Minister who decided to get rid of Ark Royal, which was a ludicrous, utterly ridiculous decision to save £500,000 a year on maintenance of the ship.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he's expanding the overseas aids budget to £12.2 billion. Just madness, utter cranking
what
madness.
else? But what else? And I'm not defending what they did,
Yes.
and I'm not saying that it was a great idea. But I don't know what else they're supposed to have done.
What
else are they supposed to have done?
Is up the defence budget. So as an island, we are an island nation.
Yeah.
We can have a proper navy to defend the British Isles.
Haven't
That's
we
right.
got some plan to be in league with the French, an aircraft carrier?
No,
wasn't that one of the plans?
Didn't we try to borrow the Charles de Gaulle or something like that?
No, I thought we were going to build and run a couple of aircraft carriers with the French.
No, we're building 2 super carriers, but it's believed that only one of them will be, permanently used by the Royal Navy, and the other one will either be leased out or
Well, no, did we not have a guy
off?
who works up at Faslane telling us that they're building one currently?
Yes.
And they're building.
Well, that's the Queen Elizabeth.
They're building one up there, and
Yes.
they're building another one somewhere down like Portsmouth, aren't they?
Well, no, what they're doing is, I think both carriers are being built in compartmental blocks, if you see what I mean.
Yes, because they build different bits in
Yeah,
different
that's
places.
right. And then they're put on the back of huge sort of transporter ships, and they're towed around, the shores of Britain, the seas of Britain, and then welded all together somewhere, which sounds like an odd way to build an aircraft carrier, but I suppose
that's the way they do
know
it
what
now.
they're doing. Yeah.
Well, when I lived in Glasgow, funnily enough, I was opposite the BAE shipyard,
right?
And they were
British
building ships up there.
Yes.
And they would build them in separate pieces and then put them all together
and
at the
then
end.
Put them together.
That's what they do. Now, Perry
Yes.
has taken that lovely picture of you and I by the fireplace in my house.
Oh yes.
And turned it into a Christmas card.
No,
Merry Christmas and the 2 mics. Isn't that nice?
That's very nice indeed. Thank you very much
send
indeed.
that out.
No, I don't.
You hate that picture, don't
I
you?
do hate that picture.
Why do you hate it?
Well, because it's
just because you've got a strange look on your face.
No, it's so mumsy and cosy, sitting on a woolen rug in front of the fire. I mean,
Well, what's
how
wrong
on
with that?
earth did you ever convince me to do that? I must have been mad.
I think he was just blatherated.
Well, I could have been blatherated in moderation. But
some narrow-minded people have said that it's a terrible picture, that it's homoerotic, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. I just think it's a very nice picture of us. Well, I don't understand why you're so against it.
I'm not sure what sort of message it's supposed to be giving out.
Well, is that what you think your picture should do? Every time we publish a picture, it should have a message attached to it.
Listen, I've had some really good news.
Have you?
Listen to this.
Oh, go on.
Bigger fish fingers aimed at adults who enjoyed the smaller version when they were kids are being launched by the frozen food giant Bird's Eye.
You see, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised this hasn't happened before, because everything has got bigger.
Exactly.
Supersized as fast food. Yep. Chocolate bars have got bigger.
That's right. Bigger coffees.
Bigger coffees.
Yeah.
So how much bigger are they going to be?
It says...
You can just buy one big fish finger, like the size of a trout.
Well, funny enough, you should say that, Mike. The other night I was going home through Victoria Station to learn that at the patisserie there, and I don't know who owns it or anything like that.
Patisserie Valerie, maybe?
Patisserie Valerie or something like that. You go up, and what it says is it's got all its, like its foodstuffs on show, and it's got the giant sausage roll.
Oh, yeah.
So I said to the guy, I said, I don't want a giant sausage roll. Yeah. Can I have can I have a regular sausage roll? He says, no, we don't do this. we only do giant sausage rolls.
How big is it?
Well, it's huge.
A foot long or something?
Yeah, it's about 10 inches long, it's a mammoth
too big.
sausage roll. And I didn't even want a hot one. I wanted a cold one to take home.
Right. What, for your dinner?
Yes, to eat with a tin of beans, because I think sausage roll and beans is lovely.
Yeah,
but anyway...
300 quid for champagne in a bar.
Yeah, that's right.
And a sausage roll and beans for dinner.
But anyway, the revamped cod...
Unbelievable.
The revamped cod and haddock versions are longer than the original fingers, but get this, double the weight. OK? Bird's Eye say the latest range is a grown-up twist on the tea time staple introduced into Britain in 1955 after the success of fish sticks in the United States.
Fish sticks in the United States, yeah. You know the difference between fish sticks and fish fingers? Fish sticks are not rectangular.
They're not rectangular, and they're not pure cod or haddock, are they? They're made up of... I
don't know.
I think they're made up of composite fish, so to speak.
Composite fish?
Yeah, and when I used to shop in Washington, D.C., at my favourite...
We've got Keith Arthur coming on the show later.
I know, that's great, yeah. At my favourite downtown supermarket there, you could either get the composite fish ones, which cost like $2, or the proper fish ones, which cost $8, you know what I mean? Because the composite ones were like, I think there were scrapings left over when...
Well, mechanically recovered fish.
Yeah, from the fish factory and all that kind of stuff.
Fish factory?
Yeah. No,
what was the name of your supermarket of choice in DC?
Was it called... it's Italian, wasn't it? D'Alio or something like that?
You're thinking of D'Agostino.
D'Agostino,
no,
that's right,
they were in New York.
They were in New York.
They weren't in DC.
No, I think
they didn't have D'Agostino.
You sure?
No, I'm very sure.
It could have been, but it was definitely another one there.
All right, then.
Yeah.
Right, well, we've got lots more to do. We've got Porky Vision coming up. Yeah. Keith Arthur's coming on to talk about dead fish, not mechanically recovered fish.
Excellent.
This is Talk Sport. Just when you thought you'd said enough about Roy Hodgson, he pops up on TV.
Yeah.
One of our internal monitors.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we've given him enough for the day, though.
Yeah, we have. Yeah, I don't want to waste
any
more time talking about
it. We've moved on. We're going to be talking about a great many other things. Tim Vickery is going to be on the show a little bit later on.
Great.
Keith Arthur's going to ask us about, going to be on talking about whether some of these mackerel have actually committed mass suicide, which is quite weird. Yeah. And also Porky Vision as well. Now, a couple of tweets for you as well, because you can tweet us, of course, at the Two Mikes. You can find us at Mike Parry 8 and at IROMG as well.
Yes.
Nick says this: can we please ban any mention of the Royal Navy on the Two Mike show? Porky obviously has some personal vendetta.
Well, I don't have a personal vendetta. I just think that's we're an island nation, and we used to have the biggest navy in the world.
Yeah, well, we're not going to be that nation ever again, so you might as well forget about it.
We're still an island nation.
Yeah,
we still need a navy to protect our shores.
Yeah, we're still a very small island nation, but the idea that we had the biggest navy in the world is ridiculous.
Yeah, well, it's not ridiculous, because that is all part of our heritage and history.
We had the biggest navy in the world when nobody else had a navy.
Anyway.
Gabriel says this: Porky hasn't been the same since they decommissioned HMS Victory, has he?
No, I haven't really. David says, so Porky's male hairdresser flies in to sort out my candy floss. Will he show him his 10-inch sausage roll?
That's a terrible thing. Why have you read that out?
I don't know. But I don't understand the relevance of that.
You don't understand it. Well, perhaps we should move on.
Sorry, I think we should go
Mark says, Porky's a numpty. M&S have been selling jumbo fish fingers for ages.
Oh, really?
They're superb. Do you never go there?
Where?
To the M&S food department.
No, I find M&S a bit sort of...
expensive?
No. Bit posh, really.
Posh?
Yeah, posh food.
I thought you like going to Waitrose.
Well, Waitrose, I think, is a proper supermarket. M&S are sort of piggybacking on their retail empire to sell food, aren't they?
Jane says this.
Or are
fish
they a
fingers...
leading food retailer?
Well, funnily enough, they're closing down a lot of their basic outlets to actually concentrate on food.
Oh, okay.
So their general retail clothing empire is sort of not doing very well, but their food shops are doing much better.
Yes, okay, I see, yeah.
Why are you not listening to me again?
No, I'm listening.
No, you're not.
I'm listening.
I can tell when you're not listening. Fish fingers, sausage rolls and beans. Porky has such an educated palate for an allegedly well-travelled man.
Yes, exactly.
Says Jane.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a compliment.
No, I don't pretend that I, go around eating these sort of fancy damn foods. I prefer
fancy
plain
Dan.
food
That's
because
the second time this week you've said that.
Is it? Yeah.
What exactly is the origin of fancy Dan?
I don't know. And
it's like a wartime phrase.
No, fancy Dan is cake, actually. It's cake.
Yeah, but it's like a wartime phrase.
Is it?
Sort of thing that was said during the war.
Was it? I don't know. I wasn't in the war, actually.
No, I know you weren't in it, but I mean, it's a very old-fashioned phrase.
Yeah, well, sometimes you can revive phrases that were used historically in the English language to improve...
revive you.
To improve your communication abilities.
Do you know who else we've got coming on in the show today?
Who?
Thomas Bjorn.
Thomas Bjorn, right.
He's just been named the captain of the new Ryder Cup
He certainly has.
For a couple of years hence.
He certainly has, and I have to say...
See, they don't want to come on the show now.
They do, it's very exciting. Yeah, that's right, yeah. No, I totally agree. That would be great.
Yeah, did I tell you, by the way, about my case of mistaken identity?
No.
I was coming into work the other day.
Oh, yes.
And I forgot to mention this to you. And I was walking just around the corner from the tube station.
Yes.
And, you come past a building which is operated by a well-known telecommunications company, shall we say.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really paying much attention. There were a few guys standing around outside smoking. I saw this one guy, but I didn't really look at him. And as I kept walking, I heard him shout a name. And when you think somebody's shouting at you, but you can never be sure. So I just kept walking.
Exactly.
And then I heard him shout the name again. And I thought, well, he must be shouting at somebody else. It's not my name. And then the third time, Fraser was the name he was shouting.
Right.
Fraser. And it got more and more kind of shrill. And finally, as I just moved away from where he was standing, he comes running up to me.
Yeah.
And goes, Fraser. Fraser. I said, what? What's wrong with you? He said, I'm the new work experience guy. I gave his name. It didn't mean anything to me. I said, well, who do you think I am? He said, well, you're Fraser. I said, no.
Who is Fraser?
I am not Fraser, okay? Right. I don't know why you think I'm Fraser.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you think I look exactly like Fraser, but I'm not Fraser.
Really?
He's like, are you sure? He actually said, I said, yeah, I'm very sure.
I'm very sure I'm not Fraser.
I don't work here.
Did you find out who Fraser was?
No. But he clearly worked at this telecommunications place. There's a guy outside smoking. Because eventually I said to this guy, are you telling me that there's a guy who works in there who looks exactly like me? And he said yes. Well, in which guy I said, well, in that case, I feel very sorry for him.
That is quite interesting, actually, because the company we're talking about, I will name them.
Why?
Well, because for identification purposes...
Don't name them.
No, it's BT.
Why are you naming them?
Well, because the story I'm going to tell you is very relevant, OK? So about a few years ago, when I left the TalkSport Towers studios,
What, you mean when you left, what? Just for the day?
No, at the end of the day. Yeah, exactly.
Right,
yeah.
You were talking about something else.
No. I'm talking about one of my sort of gardening leave type leavings. You know what I mean?
Well,
no.
Enforced absences.
No, one of my research projects. Which lasted like.
You see,
months.
Donald Trump's been named Person of the Year.
Well, I think that's a brilliant thing because
Bad news
of course,
for Nigel Farage.
Yeah, because he's been
and Beyonce.
He had whether you like him or loathe him, whether you support his politics or don't. What an astonishing story that is, and will be in 100 years' time.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm walking past the very same complex you're talking about. It's a huge BT complex around the corner from here.
It's not that big.
It's on about 16 floors.
Rubbish.
Have you not noticed? It certainly is.
It looks like a porter cabin.
Yeah, but if you look up, there's a tower above it, and on the top of that tower there are all these dishes which beam information around the world and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
What sort of information?
We have information.
What sort of information?
Well, like telecommunications information.
Like what?
Well, I think, and I'm pretty sure I'm right. I think some of the signal from TalkSport goes out through those dishes on top of that building. Yeah,
I don't think you're right about that.
Which you can see from the back windows of TalkSport Towers.
Well, I've got some more bad news for you about the back windows of TalkSport Towers.
You've got some very bad news.
They have closed off, the access point to what can only be described as the smoking area.
Well, it's a fire escape.
No.
And for years, the management have been asking people here not to use the fire escape as a smoking area, not to pollute the ground and the air around it.
No.
None of you ever listened. You pursued your filthy habit of smoking, and now the firm smack
that
of management...
That particular avenue of pleasure has been closed off to me.
Has been inputted. But anyway, so I'm walking past the old BT place, right? And all of a sudden, I get this, hey, you! Seriously, and hey, you. And again, like you, I thought, I'm taking a notice, he's probably talking to somebody else. But then, hey, Mike! And I thought,
Well, I see. Well, it's different. Well, if you hear your own name,
exactly.
then that's
he's right. So I turned round and he said, "Go on." I said, "What?" And there's a bloke standing there who had snow white hair.
Uh-huh.
He had like a Beatles sort of basin haircut, if you see what I mean, you know.
Beatles basin haircut.
Well, the way you used to get a haircut when we were kids was a Beatles cut.
Yeah.
Your mum used to put a basin on top of your head and you just used to cut below it.
No, I know
that
what a
gave
basin
the Beatles
haircut
fringe,
is, but if you had white hair, why would you have a cut like that?
I don't know. But anyway, I said, sorry. He said, "Don't you recognise me?" I said, "No, I'm sorry, I don't. Who are you?" He said, "It's Lighty."
Who are you?
Yeah, who
are you?
Yeah. He said, "It's Lighty." I
Lighty?
said, "What?"
Who's Lighty?
It's a chap called Graham Lightfoot.
Yeah.
I last saw him when I was about 22,
right,
when I played for Brown to Chester, and so did he, and he was an outstanding
Did he not work
good
there
footballer.
either?
No, this is the whole point. Now, he'd just come out of the BT building, right? What Lighty did, and so
how did he recognise you after all these...
I absolutely no idea. But what he did, and 2 or 3 of our other friends did, who went to the secondary modern school called Overley, you know.
Right.
I went to the King's School Chester, so of course
But you were just overly privileged.
No, but my ambitions in life was sort of slightly, you know, higher. But these guys, all in those days...
God help them if their ambitions are lower than yours.
No, believe it or not, they took an apprenticeship with the post office.
Right.
Because the
I
post
believe
office
that.
used
It's
to
not such
run...
an unbelievable thing.
They used to run both the guys who used to put the mail through your door, but they also used to run the telephone.
That's right.
And what they used to do in those days
Seen the
is...
time, by the way.
No, hang on, this is a great story. They used to be taught to climb up telegraph poles with a big leather belt so they didn't fall off at the top and mend the, broken phones.
Telegraph poles,
yeah, and all that kind of stuff. It was amazing. And
It's not really amazing, is
they
it?
used to have this competition about who'd climbed up the highest pole.
Right.
This is what they were always boasting about, you know. Have you been up, the 80-foot pole, on top of the hill and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, then, of course, BT got privatised, split into 2 companies, and then Royal Mail was, phased off and all that. And Lighty apparently rose up through the ranks in management and became, a senior figure. Right. Hence, he was down from Chester that day.
Well, you got all this from him in one conversation.
Yeah. I said, "What are you doing here?" And he told me very briefly, Well, he said, I joined the post office while I went into management.
Yeah, all right, you have to repeat it.
I know, yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, what happened then?
Well, what happened then was I said...
Is that it?
Yeah, I said...
That's the story?
Yeah, I said, "I've got time to talk to you. I've got something to do."
You said that?
Yeah, ta-da.
Have you seen him since?
No. And I hadn't seen him for 25 years before that.
Would you like to see him again?
No. Doesn't bother me. I never found him very great company anyway.
Yeah,
he was rather dull.
If you're listening, Lighty, do give us a call.
Yeah.
08717 223344. Porky and his old mates. No wonder he doesn't have any. This is Talk Sport.
It was actually Good King Wenceslas, wasn't it?
Good King Wenceslas, actually.
Sorry?
Good King Wenceslas.
Yes.
It's not Good King Wenceslas.
Good King Wenceslas last looked
Not
out
Wenceslas, no,
on
Wenceslas.
Eh?
It's Wenceslas.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's Good King Wenceslas.
No, it isn't.
Good King Wenceslas last looked out on the feast of Stephen.
No, it's Wenceslas.
When the snow was all about.
It's Wenceslas
deep and
looked
crisp
out.
and even.
No, there's no singing during the day. You know that, don't you?
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it.
Right.
Just don't sing.
Right. Okay, now then.
Have you got any great other heartwarming stories of Christmas reunions with your old mates?
No, people have been saying that's a great story about Lighty, poor old Lighty. I mean, when I said it was a bit dull, that was
very harsh, that. How many years ago was this?
Oh, God. I mean, we were in our 20s then,
No, I mean when
20s.
you saw him.
In his 20s. Oh, when I saw him, about 6 or 7 years ago, I think.
6 or 7?
Yeah, and when I say he was dull, he wasn't dull. He was kind of reserved. He was known as a real hard man. You know what I mean? He had.
You might want to be careful what you say about him.
No, he had short, tight, black, crinkly hair in those days, and he was, he put himself about a bit, and he was known as a hard guy you didn't mess around with. Yeah. So I ain't going to mess around with Lighty. Okay,
right, it's a bit late for that.
No, it is. Now then, listen. I'll tell you what I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about the vinyl revival.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Now, did you know?
What do you know about the vinyl revival?
Well, I'm told from reading my journals, my technological journals, that in the last quarter, more vinyl discs were bought than discs were downloaded on all the multiple systems you can download on.
Discs were downloaded.
I'm talking about record sales.
Yeah. No, but what about the discs that have been downloaded? That's what I'm interested in.
Well, you don't download a disc. You download a sound. If you see what I mean. Yeah, sound. Yeah. Well, you know what I'm talking about. Don't
I want
sit
to
there
explain
looking
it.
stupid.
Well, I don't know what you mean.
I don't have to explain
because it depends what they're including, doesn't it?
You can either go into a shop.
Are they including DVD downloads? Are they including downloadable singles?
Well,
are they including downloadable albums? What?
They are including anything you can download on things like Amazon and Vimeo and that sort of stuff. Okay? Anything, yeah. Any
so
sound.
like our DVD, which you can download from Vimeo, would that be included?
Well, this is a good point, you see, because we are part of the vinyl revolution.
Hey?
Because our DVD, The Two Mics Live in Edinburgh, only £13.49. Get it now, folks. You know, it's a very good one.
You should go to the Two Mics website for that, twomics.co.uk, to be fair.
Yeah, that's right. Go there, please, and you can get one.
That's right.
Be a great Christmas present. Now, we're part of the revolution
You
because...
get one for Lighty.
Yeah, well, that's a good idea, yeah. In case he tries to knock me block off.
Yeah.
He was a hard man. No, what I was going to say was, we're part of the vinyl revolution.
How is that?
Well, we make our new DVD available, downloaded on Vimeo, a company called Vimeo, whatever that is. But at the same time, you can actually order it through the post and you get it on vinyl.
You don't get it on vinyl? Of
course you do.
Where do you get the vinyl from?
Well, the vinyl's in the plastic box that it comes in.
We're not making records.
Well, no, but we have produced a vinyl disc with content on it.
No.
Yes, we have.
How have we?
Well, what do you think we've produced?
We've produced a DVD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what are DVDs made of?
DVD is not made of vinyl.
They're made of vinyl.
They're not.
They are made of vinyl.
They are not made of vinyl.
They are made of vinyl.
Well, you try and take a DVD out of its case and put it on a record player and see if you can play it.
No, you don't understand me. Of course you can't play it on a record player because the record player has a needle. Well, because it has a beam inside the DVD player.
A beam?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Well, like Star Trek.
No, a beam that connects and activates what's on the disc.
Yes, and that's what reads the disc, right?
Yeah, but the actual disc itself, I'm saying, is made of vinyl.
It's not made of vinyl.
It is made of... What do you think it's made of?
Well, it's more metallic than that, isn't it? If you hold a record in your hand, it's bendy, isn't it?
Yes.
It's usually black, although it doesn't have to be black, because I've got quite a few picture discs, and I've got, for example, a very bright pink version of...
Pictures of matchstick men go on.
I told you there's no singing during the day.
Yeah, go on.
And you only sing when you don't know what you're talking about now, do you?
Yeah.
And I've got a very nice pink 12-inch version of Cool for Cats.
Oh, right, okay.
By Squeeze, right?
Yeah, okay.
So it doesn't have to be black, but it is a bendy, sort of plasticky type, texture.
Well, so is a DVD.
If you get hold of a DVD, it's much stiffer, and it's much more metallic.
No, it's just smaller, that's all, so it doesn't bend as much.
So you think it's made of the same material?
Of course it is.
Absolute
and I
rubbish.
agree with you. They put a sort of a metallic type coating on the top of it in order that it can be read, but the core constituent of a DVD is vinyl.
You know what DVD stands for?
Go on, tell me.
No, have a stab at it.
No, I'm not going to have a stab at it.
Go on.
No.
Digital Versatile Disc.
That's it. Exactly. Made of vinyl.
It's not made of vinyl.
It is.
Originally invented and co-developed by Philips, Sony, Toshiba and Panasonic. Not EMI. Not CBS.
Yeah.
It was made by electronic companies, not by vinyl companies.
Until you can tell me what the core constituent of a DVD disc is, i.e. what material is it made of, I'm telling you it's made of vinyl.
Well, it isn't made of vinyl, so you can tell me as many times as you like that it's made of vinyl, I know you're wrong.
But you can't tell me anything to the alternative or the opposite.
Well, that's like saying, I'm going to tell you that the moon is made of vinyl, but because nobody knows what the moon is made of, you're going to have to believe it's made of vinyl until you come up with something else.
Don't be silly. Everybody knows the moon's made of rock and gas and all that kind of stuff.
Here we go. A DVD disc has several layers which are made of plastic.
Yes.
All layers have a thickness of 1.2 millimetres, and injection used on a polycarbonate plastic leads to the creation of microscopic bumps.
That's it.
There's no mention of vinyl.
Vinyl is plastic.
Yeah, I know, it's a type of plastic.
That's what I'm saying, it's the same thing.
OK, do you want me to now tell you what vinyl is?
Yeah.
No, I want to... So carry on with this ridiculous idea you've got that we somehow produce a vinyl DVD.
Hey, listen, by the way, I had trouble getting into the station today because of the striking train workers, which is a damn nuisance.
Is it?
It's striking conductors.
Well, these are people who are striking for their livelihoods.
Well, what a time to strike in the weeks before Christmas. It's very cruel that on the very hard working.
But you managed to get on a train.
Well, just by a lot of inconvenience and a lot of rat-like cunning, I managed to put together a route into London to get here in good time. But nevertheless,
there you go. Vinyl is not a natural substance, but is a synthetic man-made material,
like plastic.
Okay, it is made from ethylene, which is found in crude oil, and chlorine, found in regular salt. When processed, both the substances are combined to form polyvinyl chloride.
Polyvinyl.
polyvinyl chloride.
Polyvinyl.
PVC resin, or as it's commonly referred to, vinyl.
Yeah.
Completely separate from the DVD, as you will now know.
No, it's not.
I've just explained the two differences.
You have honestly just confirmed exactly what I've said, and our millions of listeners will endorse that. What you've just done is you've read out an explanation of why I was completely right in the constituents of a DVD.
No, if you had said to me vinyl and DVDs are made of different types of plastic, that would have been correct.
Yes.
Okay? To say that DVDs are made of vinyl is incorrect.
You know what I was getting to. I've seen
anyway, there's no time for the actual
I've seen
survey.
a list of the busiest stations in the world.
Really?
London Waterloo. How many passengers do you think passed through there in 2015-16?
What, 2 years?
Hey?
In 2 years?
No, in the year 2015 to 2016.
Do you mean in 1 year?
1 year.
So why don't you just say 2015?
Because it went from summer 2015 to summer 2016.
I would say 20 million.
It's 100 million.
100 million?
100 million.
There we are.
And at Victoria, 81 million.
Yeah.
And
how many times did you pass through the bar there?
And I'll go on to that stupid question. And at London, Liverpool Street for 3 million.
Time.
But this is great because
there isn't time for this.
The least used station in this country, Shippier Hill in Cambridgeshire, had one passenger.
Hill?
Yeah, one passenger a month. Literally, one passenger a month over the same period. I don't know.
I don't know who it was.
I've no idea.
Right. Anyway, we've got to stop now
because
we'll be talking to Thomas Bjorn soon. And also Kevin O'Sullivan's going to be on the show as well. This is Talk Sport. Do you have any idea what that is you just gave away?
Yes, it was the Netgear Nighthawk Tri-Band
I know all that.
And a TP-Link 2-port Powerline starter kit.
Yeah. No, I know. But do you know what that is?
We've got time to talk about it. Come on, we've got a
we
very
haven't
important
actually.
guest.
No, we have got a very important guest.
Yeah.
Thomas Bjorn, who's going to captain the Ryder Cup team.
Exactly.
Taking on the US of A for a bit of payback very, very soon. Is on with us. Thomas, a very good afternoon. Welcome to the show and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, indeed. Thomas, great to have you on the show.
Sorry,
go on. No,
I was going to
Mike.
say, did it come as a great shock to you? Did you know that you were possibly in the running?
Well, I think knew I was in the running, but it's one of those things. Before people actually ask you to do it, you're always nervous about it. But it's certainly a great honour to be in this situation.
That's right. Now, Thomas, I think I've got it right here. You've won the Ryder Cup 3 times yourself as a player. I mean, not bags of experience, but it's going to be a whole new ball game, isn't it? When actually you are carrying the weight of responsibility for the team on your shoulders. It's going to be making, playing as a team member in the Ryder Cup seem like a piece of cake, isn't it?
I don't know about that. I don't know if the Ryder Cup is ever a piece of cake, but it's certainly a big role to take on. But I got great support from the players and from everybody around past European teams. So I think I stand in a good place to take on this role and do everything that we can to bring that trophy back to this side of the Atlantic.
Yes,
I mean, it's a while until the actual competition. Is it good to have your sort of your people in place or your thoughts in place so soon before a competition?
Well, I think you've got it's a big role, and you're more than anything for the next while. You represent what we are as a tour and all the things that we do as a tour until you could really go into the matches, and that's a big role. It's the Ryder Cup captain is the face of the European tour for a long time, and that's you've got to use that role to put the game of golf out there and do the things that you can do to grow the tour and grow the game, and I think that's also an important role of a captain. And then when we get closer to matches, you focus on the team and everything around the team to make sure that those 12 players can win that trophy from a good position.
No, you're absolutely right. Now, Thomas, I've often said that in the game of football, which I know you're a great fan of, just because you're a great footballer doesn't mean you become a great manager in the game. Does that apply in golf? Because, of course, we have some outstanding, historically, golfers in this country. Nick Faldo, for one. And I'm not being unkind, but Nick struggled a little bit with the responsibility of being a Ryder Cup captain. I mean, it doesn't automatically follow, does it, that because you've had so much success as a player, you will have that success as the boss?
No, I don't think it does, but I think it's all about, for me, it's about putting time and effort into it. I'll put my heart and soul into it. I'm close to the players. I'm close to everyone involved, and I'll take my counsel as we go along. And all you can do as a manager or as a captain in this instance is to try and put a situation in place where players can perform their best, and I'll do everything I can. And I feel I have the experience to do that. I worked with a lot of captains in the past, and I understand the players well. So I feel I'm in a position where I can actually make them perform their best, and then it's up to them. It's also about 12 players wanting it more than the other 12, and that's up to the players to deliver that.
Sure. And it's going to be a very, very exciting competition. We can't let you go, Thomas, without mentioning the terrible events in the Dubai Ladies Masters, where a caddy collapsed and died. Max Zekman, I don't know whether you knew him at all, but he was on the Dubai Ladies Masters tour and died in hospital. The incident happened on the 13th hole. Very unusual happening, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's dreadful. We had it happen on the European tour a few years ago, and it affects everybody so much. Obviously, your thoughts have to go out to family and friends of the caddy that has sadly passed. But for the ladies' tour and for all the girls out there, it's a really sad moment, and it
certainly is.
It's tough to deal with for everybody on the ground, so our thoughts have to go out to them as well.
Of course, and they do. Thomas, listen, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk to us. Thomas Bjorn there, who is going to be the new Ryder Cup captain for Europe. Although, of course, by the time the next Ryder Cup is played, you do wonder what the old constituency of Europe will be like.
Well, you certainly do.
I have to say, I'm getting bored, rigid by all of this nonsense on the TV about Brexit this and Brexit that, and debates here and court cases there, and I mean, it just goes on and on and on.
I totally agree with you. I mean, it's something now which, quite frankly, I find so intolerably boring.
Yeah, it's just tedious, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very tedious, and I'm glad I didn't vote in the referendum.
Are you?
Yes, because
you didn't exercise your democratic right.
And do you know why? I was frightened of making a mistake either way. I didn't know whether I should vote to stay in, to remain, or to go out, to be a Brexiteer. And I didn't think I knew enough about the situation to be able to cast a vote, because I thought either way I go, I might be making a terrible mistake. And now it looks
as though by not voting, you've also made a terrible mistake.
No, not really. I think I did exactly the right thing. It is such a complicated situation, and the arguments on both sides are both valid and invalid, that I was right not to vote, because it's an impossible situation to clarify.
Somebody's got to have to clarify, because that's what politicians do.
Well, they're paid to do that, so they should get on with it.
OK. John says this: DVDs are made of vinyl. I think this might be a new level of stupidity for poor old Porky.
You see, I don't know why you have to send an offensive note like that into the show.
Well,
all I'm saying is that, vinyl is plastic. Plastic is what DVDs are made of. If you
No, you said DVDs are made of vinyl.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't try and wriggle out of it.
And I stand by that. And
it's not true.
What?
It's not true. DVDs are not made of vinyl.
I'm telling you that, you're splitting hairs here. No,
I'm not splitting hairs. They are not made of vinyl.
No.
It's as simple as that.
No, well, I'm sorry, but I mean, this conversation started with the fact that more vinyl records are being bought now than are being downloaded.
Yeah, you've got to tell me about that.
We've gone backwards to the days when, you used to walk into a record shop and say, give me the Beatles' latest 45, please, or give me the I don't know, what's Oasis, the latest LP, please, and that sort of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's coming back, and that is great, because there was a huge romance about music shops and record shops.
I play records all the time.
Yeah, you play records all the time. Yeah, I used to love going in a record shop and going in the booth and putting the headphones on and say, play me the latest Richie Havens or something like that. You know what I mean?
You never asked for Richie Havens.
Yeah, I have. Yes, I have.
Well, which song did you ask for?
The most successful one he ever did.
Which is what?
Something like, Nighttime Woman or something like that, wasn't it? No? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it was.
Alex says, strange, I'm trying to play my DVD on my turntable, but alas, there's no sound coming out.
I've already said that. Of course you can't play it on a turntable.
Well, why not if it's made of vinyl?
Because a turntable's got a needle, and a needle settles on a piece of vinyl that's got grooves in it. The vinyl that makes up the constituent part of a DVD is coated in metal and responds to a light beam. Sorry, I'm only telling you the facts.
I was going to coat you in metal.
No.
Let's talk sport. This is is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. Porky Vision coming up in the next hour of the show. And, of course, also, we'll be talking about TV right here with Kevin O'Sullivan, our very good friend and TV critic. Let me just read you a couple of quick tweets that have come in.
Indeed.
After you said that you were very reluctant to vote during the referendum because you didn't think that you knew enough about it. Chris says this: since when has Mike Parry not knowing the facts ever got in his way? And Mr. Wilco says it's extremely unusual for Mike Parry not to have an opinion about a subject he knows nothing about.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Hashtag Brexit.
Oh, really?
Well, let's talk to a man who is, in fact, an expert on television, and he is, of course, Kevin O'Sullivan.
Yep.
Kevin, a very good afternoon to you.
Yeah, hi, Kev.
Kev, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, we can hear you, Kev.
Thank you. There was a slight glitch in the system there.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show once again. I don't know whether you're in a position to take a view on the death of the sketch show, but I had the misfortune of watching the David Walliams and Friends show. I didn't think it was awful, but it wasn't particularly making me laugh.
I don't think it probably represents the death of the sketch show, but it might represent the death of David Walliams' sketch show.
Yeah.
I mean, it just is dreadful. I mean, I sat through the first instalment with Jack Whitehall thinking it's just good and worse. And then on to Harry Enfield.
We'll get you back on a different line, Kevin. It's
sorry
a
about that,
very bad line.
I mean, let's just give the audience the background to this, right?
Yeah.
I see a review yesterday, the best and worst television sketch shows done by, a leading Fleet Street TV analyst, and they say the best is Monty Python's and The Fast Show and Little Britain, but the worst is what got me. It says the Benny Hill Show was one of the worst. It says that the Two Ronnies was one of the worst, and the Morecambe Wise Show was one of the worst. Now, the Morecambe Wise Show, I kind of agree with. Really.
But who's actually saying that?
Well, this is, as I'm saying, it's actually a guy who works for the Times who's their TV analyst,
Is it not the case that Morecambe and Wise was more of a variety show than a sketch show?
Yeah.
Because,
but,
I mean, they used to do
they
songs.
did the sketches, didn't they?
Well, they did sketches, but like David Walliams' show, for example,
Yeah.
is just one sketch after another.
Yes, that's right.
They don't suddenly go off and do a song together.
Well, the Two Ronnies was certainly a sketch show, and that was one sketch after another, and I thought they were incredibly funny.
I suppose so.
Remember the series they had, The Worm That Turns, and remember that,
I remember the show, I don't remember a series.
They introduced a load of different characters into the show. I thought that the Benny Hill Show, a lot of people these days, of course, turn and say, Benny Hill, misogynistic, and all that, but it was very funny. It wasn't all like that. It was all about, Fred Scuttle and all that kind of stuff. And
I mean, it was kind of. I mean, I suppose the problem with something like Benny Hill is that it was very much more of the same, wasn't it? I mean, it wasn't particularly different.
No. What do you mean, more of the same of what?
Well, I mean, it was the same characters, and it was the same kind of sketches.
Well, that's what sketch shows are.
People running around, after each other, semi-naked.
Yeah, that's right.
It was quite
But
funny.
I mean, for instance, James Corden nearly finished his career by launching a sketch show with his mate. I think who might have helped him write, the great TV series, The Welsh People. What was that called?
The Welsh People?
Yeah, what was the great TV series James Corden made his name in?
Oh, what, you mean the one with two names?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Vera.
Gavin and Stacey.
Gavin and Stacey, that was the one, yeah.
Vera was the one about the Northeastern detective.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is that, he bombed on that, and so the sketch show can be very important.
What, Gavin and Stacey?
Eh?
What, he bombed on Gavin and Stacey?
No, if you'd been listening, you idiot. Gavin and Stacey
made his
name.
What do you call me an idiot for?
Because you're trying to be obtuse.
No,
Gavin and Stacey made his name,
Yeah.
and then he went off with his mate, and they made a ridiculous film called Lesbian Vampire Raiders or something.
Something like that.
Which was bombed.
Yeah.
And then he put up a sketch show on TV, which again bombed.
Yeah.
And then he got back to business and became the great genius entertainer he is today.
Well, he became a talk show host in America.
Exactly,
anyway, I think we've got Kevin back, so let's see whether we've got a better line. Kevin, is that any better?
I hope so, yeah.
Yeah,
It was called Horn and Corden.
Was that it? Yeah, that's right.
With Matthew Horn.
That's right. It was dreadful, wasn't it?
That was really, really bad. I mean, that made Walliams and Friend look like a masterpiece.
Right, okay.
But if these shows are so bad, how do they make it onto TV, though?
Well, I think the thing with sketch shows is that they're a kind of a problem. I mean, when you saw Harry Enfield hooking up with David Walliams for this current disaster, you thought, well, maybe it'll be a lot better than the Jack Whitehall one because Harry Enfield knows what he's doing when it comes to sketch shows. But actually, it was worse. So I think to an extent, some of these people get a bit clapped out with it. They get very lazy with some of their ideas. And a lot of people are saying that, David Walliams relied on Matt Lucas during Little Britain. Personally, you can't deny that it wasn't a hit, but I always thought Little Britain was really overrated.
Really?
It was just a bunch of the same characters. So all these millions of people watching every week for Vicky Pollard to go, to wait for her to go, oh, yeah, but no, but yeah, but no, but... Right. And then they'd all burst into hysterical laughter.
Yeah, sure.
Well, Sure. Not realising the principle that jokes told, the same joke told time and time again, tends to get less funny, not more funny.
Yes. Yeah, no, I totally agree. What do you think about what I think was one of the greatest ever, Kev, the two Ronnies being dismissed by a gentleman called Andrew Billen in the Times as one of the worst ever sketch shows?
Well, I think that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I do.
I think Andrew Billen's a pretty good critic, but having been there myself, sometimes you deliberately say things just to get a reaction. I remember writing.
Surely not.
I remember writing that Morse was the worst thing I'd ever seen.
Well, I thought it was.
Purely to get people riled up.
No, I thought it was.
Worked.
Driving around in that ridiculous Jaguar car.
I've never liked Morse. I can't watch it.
It's too slow.
I can't watch it.
I wasn't exactly lying, but I knew that people would get very riled up about it. Now, it may be that Andrew Billen personally didn't like the two Ronnies, and he thought he'd make some hay with that. Yeah. But to be honest with you, the thing about the two Ronnies is that they're like everybody. We remember all their great sketches, Fork Handles and all that stuff. You don't remember that some of their sketches were pretty bad. Nobody in this arena is perfect all the time. Sure. Even the best sketch show artists can be terrible sometimes. And, the problem with Walliams and Friends and shows like that is basically they're given the task, fill 30 minutes with 4, 5, 6 hilarious sketches. By the time they've done 2, they're just thinking of ways to fill the next 20 minutes. And frankly, usually you get the same ideas. I don't know if you saw the one with, was it Jack Whitehall? And they had the embarrassing dinner party where a couple is.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, well, I kind of came across it by accident. Yeah, and I mean the Sherlock Holmes thing, which I just thought, well, yeah, it was all right, but it kind of went on too long.
That's exactly right, Mike. Exactly right. One of the problems with Walliams' shows is all the sketches go on too long. Yeah. And the reason he wants them to go on too long is it means he doesn't have to think up any others.
But is this also partly the problem that television has now? Because so many people, and I include myself in this, watch TV in a very different way. Watching things on Netflix, you're watching things on iPlayer. If it doesn't fit in with your lifestyle, you're not really going to tune into a show that happens to be on at 10 o'clock at night unless you happen to do it by accident. I mean, that's more or less where I am now.
Yeah, particularly David Walliams' show that starts on a Friday, How Not to Start the Weekend.
Yeah, right.
The weekend stops here. But yes, I mean, all the channels, the main terrestrial channels, are going to face increasing problems in terms of Netflix and Amazon Prime.
Sure.
That people... It hasn't really happened in terms of a massive revolution yet, but more and more people are realising there are these services out there that aren't that expensive, and then you can cherry pick what you want when you want.
You see, Kev, I think that what you just said about Little Britain may have been because it was foisted upon us and it was different. I think the same thing happened with Monty Python's Flying Circus. I mean, Monty Python's Flying Circus, a lot of it was unintelligible rubbish, and yet it's voted number 1 in this survey.
No, exactly right. It goes back to what I was just saying, that Monty Python did have some very, very funny sketches, but it also had some very, very unfunny ones. And actually, I don't know if you've ever watched it recently, but you watch some of the sketches and you think, why did I think that was funny? I mean, in my case, I think it's because I was 6 or something.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
So it's not as funny looking at it now as it is in retrospect, if you see what I mean.
No, I totally agree.
People get very nostalgic about comedy in particular, so they go, oh, yes. I mean, I can see what Andrew Billen's talking about, that we look through rose-coloured spectacles at that whole idea about the two Ronnies. That was called the Golden Age of Television.
Right.
The Golden Age of Television was full of some terrible television. Mostly comedies in the Golden Age of Television were just awful.
Right.
Awful.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's the problem. Kevin, we're out of time, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Thank you so
thanks
much
ever
for
so
talking
much.
to us. Glad we got the line sorted out. Kevin O'Sullivan there, TV critic, of course, telling us that it may well not be the death of all sketch shows, but certainly David Walliams might not be renewing his anytime soon. We've got lots more to do. Coming up in the next hour, it's Porky Vision. Yet more television criticism from Mr. Parry.
Indeed.
This is Talk Sport. Talk Sport, we are the two Mikes. The Porky Vision coming up a little bit later on. The Porky Quiz tomorrow is going to be on Sir Roderick Stewart.
It certainly is.
After he called the show a little bit earlier on this week.
And by the way, I won't have to do much research on that. I don't know about Rod Stewart. You could write on the back of a postage stamp.
Really?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about what you do know about him?
7 or 8 out of 10, I'm predicting.
7 or 8 out of 10? My goodness me. Here's one from Welchie says, kindly ask Mr. Porkster what on earth he meant by misogynistic. For an ex-journalist, his command of English is worrying.
No, it's not.
Fail.
No, it's not.
It is actually misogynistic, but I don't want to pick you up on everything.
Yeah, well, that's okay. Everybody knows exactly what I mean, except for the feeble-minded who find necessary
very harsh.
To inquire. Now,
David says this, can I get a mention as it's my birthday today?
Are we sure about
David?
this?
Well, he says it's his birthday.
Are we sure?
Well, what do you want to do? Put the guy through the old stocks and torture him until he admits that it's not his birthday?
Okay.
Well, why would you not think it was his birthday?
Well,
what sort of a person would tweet the show and say it's my birthday today if it wasn't?
Well, lots of people might do it because, well, they might have a warped way of thinking, but I'm not suggesting that David has.
No, good.
So
well, why would you be so suspicious?
So
Are you going to wish him happy birthday then?
I'm going to wish him happy birthday.
I'll
David,
tell you why I believe it is his birthday.
Yes.
Because he's coming to see us in Glasgow.
Oh, exactly.
On December the 17th.
Great, okay.
At the garage.
And listen, mate, you can buy yourself a DVD if you want. Go to the two Mikes.
Made of vinyl.
Yeah, absolutely, made of vinyl.
Yeah, how much is it?
£13.49.
Yeah, including postage and packing.
That's right.
Excellent.
And distribution.
How about this from
VAT?
Nobody pays for distribution apart from you. Mike says, hi guys, my son Greg and I are huge fans. I've been to 3 shows and he'd like to go, but he's too young. He's 10 today. And he actually sent this in a couple of days ago.
Yes.
And a mention from you on air would make his day.
Okay.
Please, I understand if you're too busy. So, Mike, I'm sorry we didn't do it on
What's
the
his
actual
name?
day. What, the name of the boy?
Yes.
Greg.
10-year-old Greg.
Yeah.
This is a Portmeister. I wish you well. Have a great day, pal, and have a great Christmas.
How come you didn't ask him for proof of age or proof of birthday?
Well, children deserve the belief of innocence. Now, listen, I'll tell you what I'll talk to you about.
What do you want to talk to me about?
Now, this time of the year, all the trees don't have any leaves on them.
Most of them.
Yeah, because they've all fallen off.
Apart from the evergreens, of course.
Now, you have heard me talk before about the fact that I believe that trees can wave. Because when they're in full bloom in the spring and the summer and all that, they definitely sway in the wind and all that.
Well, they sway in the wind, yeah.
And I've always said to you, and you've always roundly, mocked me for it, that they have communication abilities,
well,
okay?
No, what I've roundly mocked you for is for your claims that they're waving at you. That's what I've mocked you for.
Right, okay. So listen to this, okay? Scientists have added to the growing evidence that plants are a lot cleverer than we thought they were, with an experiment that suggests they can think for themselves and make choices in a way previously only observed in animals. This is plants. This is plants thinking for themselves.
Prince Charles has been talking to plants for years.
Well, and people roundly mocked him and said, she was the first. Diana, Princess of Wales, wonderful lady, now deceased, obviously. But she was the first to say, he's potty, he talks to his plants, But this...
Well, if you lived with someone that talked to their plants, you probably would feel as if you were being slightly kind of neglected, wouldn't you?
I'll get this. Scientists from the University of Western Australia, which I imagine will be based in Perth, Oxford University...
Western Australia?
Yes. The capital of Western Australia is Perth.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I said. Well, that's why the university will probably base there.
Yeah, but the University of Western Australia is hardly renowned for its scientific background, is it?
Oh, you know people who work there, do you?
No, I don't know anyone who works there. That's what I'm saying.
And you know the faculty, do you?
I don't know anything about the University of Western Australia.
You know what sort of things they teach,
but
do you?
If, in fact, you
were
quoting...
If you don't know about it, and you shut your mouth.
Well, I don't know what you get so upset about.
Right, now then.
In fact, you were able to tell me that this was a study that was done in one of the great botanic universities, which we would know well.
Well, what about Oxford University?
Well, Oxford would probably be somewhere more in the botanical area.
You. So if you let me finish, I said the team whose work is published in the online journal Scientific Reports, okay?
Scientific Reports?
Yeah.
That's one of my favourites.
Yeah, found convincing evidence that plants were capable of learning a particular association between the occurrence of one event and the anticipation of another.
What does that mean?
Well, it means that if there's a light up in the sky, the plant will turn towards the light. You know what I mean?
Well, we all know that.
No, this is better.
Well, we know that.
So the scientists from the University of Western Australia, Oxford University, and the University of Zurich, that's the top university, carried out experiments inspired by the great Russian scientist Ivan Pavlov. Ivan, who
the engine driver.
Ivan Pavlov, who observed.
Has he got a dog?
Eh?
Pavlov.
Well, funny you should say that, because he did an experiment with dogs and found that they salivated when a bell was rung, OK?
Well, that would be Pavlov's dog.
That was Pavlov's dog.
Yeah.
And this
same guy.
Yeah, same guy. And this associated dinner with the sound of the bell rather than with food itself. Eh?
Isn't he dead?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Because hang on, the Pavlov's dog thing is decades old.
No, it's not. It's not. They're doing it now. Anyway.
What do you mean they're doing it now?
Anyway, listen, they transferred this theory, this well-known theory, to peas, OK, peas, and they associated...
Pavlov's peas.
Here, listen, the breeze of an electric fan with a blue LED... What's your problem? With a blue LED light to which peas are naturally attracted. Huh?
Peas.
Yeah, peas.
Peas are attracted to a light.
After exposing seedlings...
That's why you have to lock them up in the freezer.
After exposing seedlings to both the breeze and the light, nearly 2/3 of the plants were subsequently found to change their growth pattern in anticipation...
Why are you shouting?
Well, because I'm trying to get my point over.
OK.
In anticipation, the light would come from the source of the breeze. OK?
The breeze?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
And the researchers said their study was a world first.
Well, they would.
So we're breaking news here. It's a world first in showing that plants can learn by association.
Well, what can they learn to do?
Amazing.
They can't learn to type, can they? What can they learn to do?
Oh, don't be stupid.
All they can learn to do is to do photosynthesis, which is what they would do anyway.
It says, our results show that associative learning is an essential component of plant behaviour.
Yeah.
We conclude that associative learning represents a universal adaptive mechanism which is shared by both animals and plants. How about that?
Ivan Pavlov was born in 1849.
Yeah.
So if he's still around, I think there's a better story here because he's clearly managed to work out how to live forever.
I didn't say he was still around.
You said that Pavlov was involved in this experiment.
He was.
Pavlov's peas.
He was. They, as I say, the researchers from Western Australia...
He died in 1936 in Leningrad.
Yeah, I know that. The guys in Western Australia in Perth said that they applied the revelations which were thrown up by the scientist Ivan Pavlov and his dog to the situation regarding peas.
The situation?
Yeah, being able to
think...
The
pea situation?
Yeah, being able to think...
What is the situation?
Well, they think for themselves. I just explained that to you.
That is complete and utter errant nonsense.
And just to conclude this...
what proof have you got that they think for themselves?
I haven't, but the scientists have, because they're more clever than me. They know more about it than I do. And I'm going to ignore that. And the conclusion to this report says...
conclusion.
And this is the scientists, the bright men. They said, we anticipate that this study will stir a lively and exciting debate...
Well, it's certainly done that here.
...on the origin and properties of memory learning and ultimately intelligent behaviour in biological systems.
What did one frozen pea say to the other frozen pea?
I mean, you're pathetic, honestly. I try to enlighten the world with us.
I hope I'm not going to end up in the shepherd's pie.
You know, I read my journals acidiously to try and bring this information to the greater audience.
Yes.
You know, the millions of people who listen to us, and you can't even get into the swing of things. Honestly.
Thankfully, Tim Vickery's coming up next. We'll see if we can shine some light on what he's got to say about life in general. Thank you, Mr. Parry. This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Coming up a little bit later on in the show, Keith Arthur's going to join us. We've got Porky Vision as well. Right now, though, it's time to catch up with Tim Vickery over in Brazil. We've had some very bad news from that part of the world in recent times. Tim, very good afternoon to you. What's the latest on the crash itself? We understand there's been a few arrests or something now.
Yes, the airline who were responsible here. Well, if you look under the rock, it doesn't look too good, frankly. South America is very, very big. It's not like Europe. Distances are huge, and transport infrastructure, the transport links, are much more precarious. So there is a kind of gap in the market for a charter firm with football teams to come in and say, I will solve your problem. I will take you there. And that's where this airline, run out of Bolivia, La Mia, that's what they'd done. They were specialising in taking football teams around. It does seem, though, that, because presumably they tell you in flying school that there are no such thing as petrol stations at 20,000 feet. Yeah. Because it does seem that this airline was cutting corners, especially with the fuel capacity of its plane.
Well, Tim, can I just interrupt you there? Because I just want to sort of set the pattern for this. Without branding South America, all third world and all that, what is the reputation for most national, international airlines on the South American continent? Like, for instance, if you went to parts of the world in the Far East and all that, they have dodgy reputations. What is the reputation for the airline industry in South America?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
But this isn't a national airline. This is a little charter company, and that's the difference.
Yes.
That's the crucial difference to understand. And there'll be a long investigation into the cause of the crash last week, including British specialists, because it was a British-made plane. But it does seem absolutely clear that it was out of fuel, no fuel, and that the flight was at the very, very limit of its fuel capacity. And this had been pointed out by the Bolivian authorities, and for some reason that plane was able to fly. And they reckon in a fuel capacity of a flight of maybe 4 hours, 22 minutes, this was right at the limit. Yeah. And the worrying thing, if you look back, this airline in recent months has undergone a few journeys which pushed it to the limit. There was one involving Argentina, Lionel Messi and all. They played in Brazil, flying from Belo Horizonte in Brazil down back to Buenos Aires for the next round of World Cup qualifiers. That was a flight of just over 4 hours. So that was pushing. You're supposed to carry a reserve. In some places, it's at least 5% of the fuel capacity need for the journey. In some, it's 10%. Get to this story. The less trustworthy this airline looks. Now, obviously, the pilot killed himself. Obviously, that clearly wasn't his intention. Yeah. But it does seem clear that he was a part owner of the company. Right. This was their only operational airline, only operational aircraft, only 15 employees, 7 of whom have now died. And it seems clear that he was operating more with the head of a chief executive of a company, less with the head of a pilot, running risks. He thought he could get away with these risks, but it proved to be a fatal miscalculation.
It certainly did, didn't it?
And I mean, I guess for this particular airline, and perhaps that should be the end result, there will be no more flights made by this airline. They're presumably, if they weren't grounded already. It's only one aircraft. Yeah, I mean, it's only got one aircraft anyway, but I mean, that's the end of it, isn't it? I mean, nobody would ever want to use them again.
Well, no, I think it's had its licence suspended, but I think that's pretty academic. It's nearly half of its employees have died, and it's lost its only operational airline.
Exactly.
I guess what I mean is it's not academic in the sense that the people running it might wish to start up another airline or run another airline on top of the one that's now had its licence suspended. That's what we have to be careful about.
And here the personal connections thing comes in, because one of the other leading executives of this airline is the son of the fellow who was in charge of civil aviation in Bolivia. So did that help them cut corners? And that's a question which is now being asked.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be years, won't it, before we get to the truth of this one, Tim, what exactly happened and who authorised what.
Well, I would hope they'll be able to wrap it up in 6 months.
Really?
Because so many of the facts are already coming to light. One thing which is a little bit concerning, I think, is the woman in the Bolivian airports who pointed out this is at the limit. She pointed out 5 problems with the flight plan. She's fled to Brazil. So what was she? Why is she worried about telling the truth in Bolivia with the personal connections that people behind this airline might have.
Yeah.
But I would expect us to have a comprehensive picture of the truth relatively quickly. And the black boxes have all been recovered. The it's such a high-profile investigation. At least 6 months, perhaps, but I can't imagine it's going to be longer than a year.
Well, we hope so. We'll get into some more brighter news. Tell us now about the South American representatives in the Club World Cup.
Well, it's Atlético Nacional of Colombia who were to have been Chapecoense's opponents over the two legs of this Copa Sudamericana final. Obviously, the Chapecoense team didn't make it because the plane crashed. And the response of Atlético Nacional has been absolutely beautiful. They held the Colombian club. The only connection between these two clubs, the game that didn't take place, they threw open their stadium on Wednesday, and thousands of Colombians flocked in. There were tens of thousands flocked outside the stadium in a really touching memorial tribute. A suggestion that came from the Atlético Nacional players and has since been acted upon. Chapecoense have been declared winners of the Copa Sudamericana, which, as well as a symbolic tribute to those who died, is also very, very good in financial terms and will help Chapecoense in the difficult task of getting back on its feet. So Atlético Nacional, who now they'll fly off tomorrow to Japan to represent South America in the World Club Cup. They'll hope to have a big glamorous final against Real Madrid. They have become, this Colombian side, they have become the most popular team in Brazil because their reaction to the disaster has been absolutely beautiful.
Right. And just before I let you go, Tim, I just wanted to ask you about the fracas between Sergio Aguero and David Luiz over the game at the weekend between Chelsea and Manchester City. I imagine there'll be quite a few interested parties in your part of the world watching that.
Yeah, indeed, although it's not repeated at national team level anymore because Brazil haven't so much dropped David Luiz as hurled him aside with force.
Yeah, right.
So we ain't going to see that one when Brazil play Argentina. But do you think it was worthy of a 4-game ban with the authorities on this one?
Yeah, I do.
I think so, because I think he'd given it a lot of thought before he did it. Do you know what I mean? And I think there was a lot of questions asked about whether something should have been done earlier in the game and whether Luiz should have been sent off and all of that. But yeah, I think if people are going to take the law into their own hands, as it were, I suppose you have to give them a big warning.
Yeah, he'd taken a few clatterings, hadn't he? So you think he was following the philosophy of revenge is a dish best served cold?
Oh, I think so. I think, the longer he thought about it, the more he realised that he wanted to do it, and then the longer he waited to do it, the more vicious he wanted it to be. But there we are, Tim.
Well, he's boxing outside his weight division there, isn't he? So maybe we should cut him a little bit of slack.
Well, exactly, especially when the Chelsea players came over and just shoved him over. He looked a very small man, but there we are. Tim, listen, thank you very much indeed. Tim Vickery there reporting into us from Brazil with all the latest news from his part of the world.
Yep.
Porky Vision's coming up, by the way. We've got loads and loads of very good tweets and things to read out as well. This is Talk Sport.
TV reviewer, I can reveal there are no plans for a new series.
Yeah, no, but wasn't there a previous series?
Oh, hang on, wait a minute. It says here there might be a new series. What's the problem?
It is that time of the week, of course. Porky Vision, the best TV review this side of the Rio Grande, we were saying earlier on in the show. Lots of television around at the moment. We just were speaking to Kevin O'Sullivan about Walliams and Friend. Yeah. I don't know whether that features in your Porky Vision, but I shall hand over to you.
Now, there's a lot of Scottish stuff going on at the moment.
Scottish stuff?
Yeah, Scottish stuff, really? Right. Now, tonight, there's a great new programme on. It's called In Plain Sight.
In Plain Sight, yes. I think I've seen that advertised.
You've seen it, have you?
Well, I haven't seen it, no. It's not on until tonight.
No, it's not on until tonight, no. But, of course, I have the inside on it because I'm a TV reviewer.
Have you had an early peek?
Well, can't say too much, in case I get people into trouble. But the point is, it's a 3-parter, and it's based on the true story of William Munsey.
William Munsey?
Yeah.
That's a particularly Scottish name.
He's the most famous cop ever in Scotland.
Really?
Yeah, he's a bit like Sherlock Holmes, but he's like modern.
What, is he real or fictitious?
He's real. He's real. Right.
Well, unlike Sherlock Holmes.
That's right, yeah.
Who was fictitious.
Yes, that's right, yeah. Now, he has to go and find some serial killer, okay? A guy called Douglas... Sorry,
have you seen it?
Hang on. The guy who plays Munsey is a guy called Douglas Henshall. That's the actor's name.
Douglas Henshall.
Yeah, and he's after... hang on, who's he with? He's after an evil person called Manuel.
Manuel.
Well,
are you sure it's in plain sight?
No, he's
according to what I'm looking at here, in plain sight,
yeah.
is a cheeky drama.
Well, excuse me, I'm doing the review, not you.
Hang on, revolves around Mary Shannon, a sexy but formidable US Marshal, whose job it is to ensure the safety of people in the federal
You've now completely wrecked Porky Vision. That is a completely different programme in America. This is not the one I'm reviewing. Could you shut your mouth
I just wanted to
and
check.
stop, please, confusing the audience with your ridiculous, half-baked, ill-informed interventions?
Sorry, only one of us could be half-baked and ill-informed.
Now, Martin Compston plays the evil...
I like him.
Yeah, he plays the evil Manuel. And it's Muncie's job.
Is he?
Eh?
Manuel, is he Scottish?
His name's actually Manuel, I think. I don't think it's Manuel.
Manuel?
But anyway, the point of the story is, right, that's on tonight. Now, what...
Who's playing automatic?
What? What did you say?
Never mind.
Did you say something stupid
there
again?
I said, who's playing automatic?
Right, now then, now this coincides with the fact that there's a great daytime programme started, which I've been watching, and it's called The Doctor... And by the way...
The Doctor?
No, it's called The Dr. Blake Mysteries.
Well, hang on, what about In Plain Sight?
Well, I've just told you about that.
Well, you just told me who's in it.
Yeah,
and what he plays.
Well, I'll tell you what it reminds you of. It reminds you of Dr. Finley's Keysbook.
Will it?
Yes. Do you remember
Janet? I do remember Janet. Yeah. Dr. Cameron.
Dr. Cameron.
Well, most people won't remember that.
Yeah, Dr. Finley's Keysbook.
Over the age of 50.
Janet, can you get me some more hot soup?
Yeah.
You know, and all that kind of stuff.
There was always a suspicion there was something going on between Janet and Dr. Cameron.
Well, you don't like to think about it because they're both very wrinkly sort of octogenarians or something. They're very wrinkly old people, you know. You can't imagine them getting up to any of the, rumpy pumpy or anything like that.
It's a family show.
But anyway, so it's a bit like Dr. Finley's Casebook, but it's not medicine, it's crime, okay?
In plain sight.
In plain sight. Right. Now that coincides with a daytime show, which has started, it's on every day, which I have been assiduously watching.
Have you?
Called The Dr. Blake Mysteries.
The Dr. Blake, right.
Yeah, okay.
It's a daytime show.
It's a daytime show, it's on 2:15.
I don't think you've had time to watch that. With all of your busyness that you have to do?
I have the technology to postpone the viewing of these.
For the last week and a half, we've been doing this show at 2:15, so clearly you wouldn't watch it live, will you?
Well, it doesn't matter. I can get to watch it later. Now, the Dr. Blake Mysteries, for instance, the plot today is
Today?
Today, yeah.
Well, how do you know what the plot is today?
Well, because, I've got ways and means of doing this.
You can't watch it before it goes out, can you?
Well, I can't say too much. But anyway, it's about a lottery winner who's kidnapped and held to ransom. And Blake uses his instincts to, find out what's going on. Now, the thing is...
No, this is a detective show, is it?
It's a detective show.
Right.
The Dr. Blake Mysteries.
Is it? Why is he a doctor?
Well, I'm not too sure about that. But
what is he, a doctor or a cop?
No, he's a cop. He's definitely a cop.
Well, why is he a doctor?
Well, I think he might be a pathologist or something.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean? But anyway, this is set in Scotland as well.
Like Quincy.
Yeah, a bit like Quincy, that's right. But I think this is set in Scotland as well because I'm sure there were some Scottish people in it. I saw it yesterday. I'm pretty sure anyway. But anyway, look.
Maybe it was just in Scotland yesterday.
No, he's based up there. I'm sure. I mean, Blake sounds a bit Scottish.
No, it doesn't.
Is Blake Scottish?
No, it was Blake Seven. Scottish, wasn't it?
No, that was sci-fi. So you've got these two new great programmes, okay?
Yes.
Which are well worth watching, believe me. All now, one programme which I don't think is going to be worth watching, right, is coming up soon on Channel 5.
Yeah.
Now, we all know about Channel 5.
Yeah.
It's a great station.
It is a great station,
and puts out great programmes, right? And it's going to apparently, according to my information and contacts, it is going to show the most ridiculous reality show of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Called what is it called?
What is it called?
It's going to be called Celebrity Carry On Barging.
Carry on barging?
Barging, yeah. Now,
barging as in, like, barging, shoulder barging?
No, that's what I thought initially, and I thought, well, that doesn't sound too good.
David Louise on
go into, like, a padded cell or something and start barging. No, this is honestly about getting on, those long boats on canals. If you're on the...
It's not a long boat.
Yeah, they are.
It's a narrow boat.
A narrow boat, that's right.
Long boats are what the Vikings used to come to invade Britain on.
That's right, yeah, you don't see many of them in
canals.
canals.
You don't see Regent's Park Canal. Look, Some Vikings on a longboat.
No, okay, yeah, I understand that, yeah. Now then, what I'm saying is, sometimes when you're speeding north on the train, they tend to go alongside canals pretty closely, don't they? You always see all these narrow boats.
It's not coincidence, though.
Well, I know it's not coincidence.
Because the Industrial Revolution dictated that the train lines went the same route as the canal.
Exactly.
They were the fastest route between 2 points.
That is absolutely right. So what happens is, a load of people like Debbie McGee, I assume that she's
people like Debbie McGee.
Yeah, the widow of
Paul Daniels.
Paul Daniels, is she? Is she? Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, apparently, Lorraine Chase. Now, I think Lorraine Chase was last on television in this country when she did the advert for Luton Airport, didn't she?
Well, she didn't do an advert for Luton Airport. She did an advert for Cinzano.
Cinzano, that's right.
Leonard Rossiter. That was in the 70s.
Yeah, in which she said, where have you come from? Mallorca? No. Nah, Luton Airport.
No, he says, were you truly wafted here from paradise?
That's right. And she said,
and then she says, nah,
Luton Airport. And then somebody made a song about it. And the last line of the first verse said, they're in a nightclub, right, and they're getting completely bladderated.
What, her and somebody else?
Her and a group of people, and some bloke falls off the stool in the bladeration nightclub, right?
Yeah.
And the last line of the song says, he's the pilot flying, he's going to be the pilot who's flying us on home to Luton Airport. Ooh,
yeah,
Luton
well, that
Airport.
was the chorus.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
By the way, quite a few people have sent the same tweet in.
Oh, yeah.
One from Alison I'm going to prick out.
Right.
I hate to correct you, Porky, but Dr. Blake is actually set in Australia.
Oh, is it? Oh, is it? Right.
1960s Australia, with stars Henry from Neighbours.
Oh, is it? Oh, OK. Well, I knew there was an accent involved, and I must admit, when I was watching it, I thought it sounded a bit Scottish to me. But plenty of Scottish people emigrated to Australia,
That's true, yeah.
Now, so getting back to...
so the barging.
The barging, yeah.
So what, they're all going to be on one barge?
Apparently. Who's Simon Callow?
What?
Because he's in it as well.
Simon Callow?
Simon Callow.
Simon Callow, is he not the conductor?
Is he a conductor? OK, anyway, so...
or he's an actor?
Eh? He's an actor, is he? Yeah. So what happens is, this lot get on these narrow boats, and then I think that's
how many of them?
Well, one on each boat. I mean...
One on each boat?
Yeah. And then, yeah. And sorry, I mean, and then
they go through the locks together.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Well, there must be living together on the boat. Surely that's the whole point of it, isn't it?
I don't think so.
There's no room, so you wouldn't just put one on each boat. You'd want to put like 3 or 4.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. I suppose they all get onto the one boat, and then they kind of. Oh, I see. So they sort of chugging along.
Maybe they kick one off the boat.
Chugging along at 2 or 3 miles an hour. The next time they come to a lock, they throw somebody off or something like that. Yeah. Well, I mean, that could be it. That could be the way things are. But
so when is this starting?
Well, you see, that's a good question because
you don't know the answer.
Well, it's not. I don't know the answer. I just can't reveal too much about these things, can I? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think, all in all, it's a pretty inspiring week of television.
Yeah.
There was something called This Is Us.
I think we're out of time now.
So, no. This Is Us.
Yeah.
Which was about...
This is this?
No, it's a comedy drama. But it's American, so it's not very good, apparently.
Yeah, I saw a couple of trails for it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Right, well, there you go, you see?
Yeah.
So that's
the end of the show.
Classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was Porky Vision.
Yeah, okay.
For another week.
Yeah, good.
There'll be another one next week.
There will.
I can't wait.
I can reveal.
Yeah.
There are no plans for a new series.
Yeah, no, but wasn't there a previous series?
Oh, hang on, wait a minute. It says here there might be a new series. What's the problem?
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. It's Porky quiz time tomorrow, of course, and the quiz is going to be on Sir Rod Stewart after he made an intervention on the show this week, claiming to be Porky's friend. So we'll see just how much Porky knows.
Are you doubting Sir Roderick Stewart?
I think he was just being nice to you. I think he was just being nice to you.
Really?
You know, I don't see him offering you tickets for his show or anything. Somebody actually said to us, why don't we invite him to come to the show in the garage in Glasgow?
Well,
he might want to come on and do a duet with you on Maggie May.
Well, that'd be very kind of him. I tend to believe that Sir Rod will have better things to do on that particular night.
Well, maybe you could ask him since he's your friend.
Well, I don't want to be pushy or anything like that.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
Now, we started the show. We're going to talk to Keith Arthur in a moment, who I haven't spoken to for an age. One of our greatest former Talk Sport presenters.
Indeed.
Still occasionally does a bit on here.
Totally.
Fishing legend, you'd have to say. But just because we started the show talking about Roy Hodgson, I wanted to mention to you that apparently Roy Hodgson is now saying in his latest interview that he'd like to get back into football management.
I know. Which club would take him?
Well,
which club would take him?
You'd have to be in pretty bad shape, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Let's talk to Mr. Arthur. Keith,
Indeed.
a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. What a great pleasure to be on the show with so much sanity and reason. I mean, it's fantastic.
Very unusual for us too, actually.
Yes, exactly. But it's
very glad you've joined us to bring some of that to it, to be honest. But
great to have your dulcet tones with us, Keith. We have missed you.
And, I've missed you too.
Great to hear you again, mate. So we want to talk to you about this. I'm sure you've seen it, Keith. It's an amazing sight of like thousands of fish washed up on a Cornish beach. Mackerel, yeah. Apparently because a whale chased them out the water. Is that normal?
It's possible. I mean, unless somebody actually saw it, I think there might be perhaps a different reason. It may have been part of a bycatch or a burst net. That southwest peninsula of England is a really hotbed of trawling and seine netting at this time of year for salmon and herring and pilchards, and it could quite possibly be an unwanted bycatch. Maybe the fish were too small or the wrong species and tipped back to sea, or a net may have burst.
Yeah.
It's possible it was something natural, but I think it's quite unlikely.
The version I've seen is that they might have been somehow washed up on the beach by a storm or by bad weather. But as you say, they would have had to have still been collectively sort of,
gathered together
as if they had been dumped out of the net. I mean, Porky was telling me earlier he thought they'd all committed suicide, mass suicide.
Well, they are quite used to swimming in the sea. I mean, let's face it, it's where they live, and they know which way is bad and which way is good. Although they can get. There's two reasons for them from going up on beaches. They can sometimes be chased, and they can be the chasers. They will chase some small fry, whitebait and fish fry up the beach, sometimes in the summer, but this time of year there's not much in the way of fry about, but there are, and you've only got to look at something like the Marine Traffic app to see just how many fishing boats there are working off that Cornish Peninsula. I did this afternoon, and in random terms, there's a lot.
Yes.
Right, I see.
Because, I mean, when I went fishing, when I had a very limited amount of fishing that I ever do, I used to talk to you about, Keith, over in Long Island Sound, and you see the bluefish, and they form themselves into like a cylinder and push all the other fish up to the top, don't they? So, I mean, I suppose if something was doing that to them, that could have happened.
It's possible, but that's more likely in the earlier months of the year when they would be maybe. I mean, there's been quite a lot of tuna off our coast now. Bluefin tuna, big tuna, and smaller albacore tuna. It could have been those, but it's December and they're about more August, maybe creeping into September. You see bluefin and the albacore. They like much warmer temperatures and they're migrating, so they'll have gone through our waters some time ago. They can regulate their body temperature, can bluefin, a bit like swordfish do. And bluefin do chase those shoals of fish, and they have been spotted in quite big numbers this year off the Cornish Peninsula, but earlier in the year. I reckon it's more nefarious purposes rather than natural purposes.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So that now raises the question, Keith, if there are thousands of these fish on a beach, why don't local fishmongers rush down there with their wooden boxes and cases full of ice and box them up and take them away and put them in freezers and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I suppose it depends how fresh they are, for one. Yeah. And two, you're never quite sure. There is also a possibility, of course, that a ship has dumped something toxic and it's actually poisoned them. So without autopsies and post-mortems and everything, it's quite difficult to be 100% sure. Yeah. It only needs a fairly small amount of toxic material. And don't forget, these are vast shoaling species. I mean, mackerel and herring, that kind of species, swim extremely close together. Right. I've been, and I'm sure Mike will have seen, as you said, the tubes of bluefin. Well, I've certainly seen schools of mackerel where, according to the echo sounder, we were on dry land. There were that many fish underneath us.
I see.
The echo sounder was just throwing back images of solidness.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that, Keith, because I read a report at the weekend saying that cruise liners, which is a massive booming industry around the world, have just been nicked for actually dispensing with a lot more toxic waste from their the bowels of their ships than was ever.
And that's only the ones that are caught.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Than has ever been thought about before. I mean, there's a possibility that could be involved, isn't there?
Oh yeah, and it could be anything like that. And I would say that if on a probability scale, it's 2 that it's natural out of 10, and 8 that it's something that we've done.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
Now, speaking of things that we haven't spoken of for a while, Keith, were you surprised to see Arsenal come top of the Champions League group after all that? After we were told that it couldn't happen, after we were told that they're going to come second, it might not be that bad. It's been a surprising season, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. I mean, Ludogorets aren't as silly as they look. Arsenal, did quite well against them, but they are a learning team, and everybody's saying, "Oh, Basel." Of course, I was listening to it on commentary last night. Oh, well, Arsenal are going to get 4 or 5 here. Well, they got 4, and they nearly got 5, but. Basel don't get beaten at home. They saw off Manchester United a couple of years ago. So, they're no mugs. And it was a good performance. I watched most of it. It was a very, very good performance.
Yeah, it was, and actually at this time of the year, Arsenal are supposed to sort of implode, aren't they? Because they normally do, and they didn't. So maybe there's fresh.
Well, it's usually February, isn't it?
No, it's usually autumn.
November. We're just coming out of November. When,
exactly.
That is normally the bad season when Arsenal generally suffer from a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
But this year they've been quite lucky. I mean, Cazorla's a big miss, but the pairing that was there last night, namely Xhaka and Ramsey, are the pairing that I really fancy there when Cazorla's not playing. When Cazorla's playing, I'd have the 2 Cs. I'd have Cazorla and Coquelin there, but I quite like Xhaka and Ramsey together. I think Xhaka's a much better footballer than he's given credit for.
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant stuff. Well, listen, Keith.
Right, Keith, thanks very much for joining us. Always great to hear you.
Sunday, so don't forget to listen.
Oh, yeah, we will, don't worry.
You're on this Sunday?
This Sunday morning, 6 till 7. Nigel's in Tobago, and I've drawn the long straw.
Excellent.
Right.
We'll be there, man.
We shall look out for it. Fisherman's Blues, of course, coming up on Sunday with Keith Arthur. Tremendous stuff. You might, if you're an Arsenal fan, want to keep listening to the Drive Show, by the way, coming up, because there's going to be some interesting stuff on there.
Surely
is. Sport. Don't forget to follow the 2 Mics, at the 2 Mics on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for 2 Mics TV.
We have produced a vinyl disc
haven't.
with content on it.
No.
Yes, we have.
How have we?
Well, what do you think we've produced?
We've produced a DVD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what are DVDs made of?
DVD is not made of vinyl.
They're made of vinyl.
Sacked from the Daily Express, sent to New York because you became a Bellinin junkie.
Excuse me?
Yes, you did.
How dare you?
A Bellinin junkie. Sacked from the job at the Express because of the nasty and horrible way that you treated your staff.
I'm not getting into this.
I don't want to attack him personally, but he's clearly a very vain man. He's very self-important.
Yeah.
He's very pompous.
My coiffura came in at 7:15 this morning to do my hair.
What's
How about
his name?
that? Hey?
What's his name?
John.
John?
Yes. He said, "Don't you recognise me?" I said, "No, I'm sorry, I don't. Who are you?" He said, "It's Lighty."
Who's Lighty?
It's a chap called Graham Lightfoot.
Yeah.
I last saw him when I was about 22. Yeah, I said, I haven't got time to talk to you. I've got something to do.
You said that?
Yeah, ta-da.
Have you seen him since?
No. It was actually Good King Wenceslas, wasn't it?
Good King Wenceslas Lass, actually.
Sorry?
Good King Wenceslas Lass.
Yes.
It's not Good King Wenceslas.
Good King Wenceslas last looked
Not
out
Wenceslas, no,
on
Wenceslas.
Eh?
It's Wenceslas.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's Good King.